Anime seems kinda pervy, right?
Not all anime!
Dude, chill.
As long as the proud tradition of anime is at risk, I'm afraid I can never chill. You see, I was an orphan. I mean, I had parents, but they didn't get me. Then one day, I rented a VHS copy of Ninja Scroll from a Hollywood video. It saved me. Anime raised me. Now I live only to defend the one I love.
Oh my god, relax. It's just a cartoon.
It's actually a very innovative art form. And it isn't pervy, you just don't understand the culture, you filthy fucking casual noob bags!
You did it! You defended the fandom!
Thank you, miladies, but I belong solely to my waifu.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Rolling 20s. We are the show that says if WWE wrestlers get any older, we're going to watch our first broken hip match. I am Jeremy.
Steve? Jesse?
V?
Remember, you can subscribe to this show and several others in the MSP library at missionstarpodcast.com. You can like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on iTunes and on Stitcher. Follow us on Twitter at the Rolling 20s. You can send us any fan mail, suggestions for the show, or hate mail at mspfreight@yahoo.com. The music you heard for the show was by Machine Supremacy. You can find most of their discography for free download at machinesupremacy.com, as well as their latest couple of albums on Amazon.com. The clip you heard at the beginning of the show was The Adventures of Butthurt Anime Fan by collegehumor.com. You can find their YouTube channel under College Humor. How are you guys doing today?
Tired. I'm exhausted.
Unreasonably
Unreasonably
peppy. You know,
peppy.
as in to have
Okay.
pep.
I think you need to see a doctor and go to rehab about that. But no, why are the men here tired? What happened?
I crashed at 1 and woke up at 6 this morning, so 5 hours of sleep well with me.
Okay, that's precisely what I did. Keep going. What else happened?
I proceeded to go to work and yeah, that's it. That was just 5 hours of sleep does not work with me.
Wow, I went to the gym after that. I mean, it's got to be something else.
I'm fat and overweight, so.
And I'm that too. Come on, man, you got to find something better than that.
I got nothing. I'm just tired.
All right, Steve, what'd you do?
Huh? Oh, I couldn't sleep last night. My back was killing me.
Huh. See, I actually stayed up late because my network was acting up, and I watched RoboCop from beginning to end. The new one, not the old one.
You know, if your back's killing you because of the bed, at least for me, I find it works to put a pillow under my knees. You might try it.
Yeah, it's not the bed. I think it's just because I have to sleep on my back, and that's like never how I've slept before. And
yeah, just try the pillow thing. Trust me, like.
Yeah, I could try it. I eventually just got up and went and slept on the couch in a chair sitting up because that was easier on my back than laying down.
Interesting. I could see.
Yeah, yeah, this is really interesting. A bunch of people listening to geriatrics talk about having to sleep. No, I was up late watching RoboCop. I thought I'd only tune in about half an hour of it on Netflix and just pass some time, and it turned out to be much more engrossing than anybody told me.
I don't know. I enjoyed it. It wasn't, the best movie, but it was.
It had a lot more. It had a lot more thought about the concept than the prior version did.
Yes.
Well, I think it's had a lot more time to evolve.
Well, it also hired some better actors. I mean, you get Michael Keaton in something, you're going to get something amazing or something awful.
Everything I've seen him in has been amazing.
I still need to see Birdman, though.
Oh my god, that is so good.
I've been told great things about that. But in the meantime, Saturday was a busy day. I went out and picked up a new microphone. I went out and picked up some RAM chips for my computer. The RAM chips were free because I had a store credit, thankfully. And while I was out, I decided to stop by my local theater, and I pre-purchased my ticket for Age of Ultron next Saturday.
Awesome.
Nice.
So that's waiting for me. I'm not quite sure how I feel about that, because that means I got to finish my my errands early on Saturday and rush over to the movie theater. I don't want to watch the movie that quickly. I want it to percolate a bit, but frickin' Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., if I'm going to keep up with that, I got to be there.
Oh, that's a good point. God damn it.
Well, I mean, I got left out from the real reveals from the Winter Soldier and Thor: The Dark World. You know, all I saw was this stuff happening on TV, and I went, how the fuck did we get here? So I just thought, okay, Age of Ultron is going to be a really big, like, global adventure, and this is probably going to change the face of what the fuck they're doing, so I got to see this first.
Yeah, at the very least they'll have, like, Easter eggs and stuff.
Yeah. And while I was going through my Facebook feed, there is somebody I know online. Her name is Judith Brunetti. She had an interesting post for Anime Expo, of all things. And I have to read this because, man, she is angry, but she said it in such an interesting way. It's almost comedy. This is from her Facebook page. Dear Anime Expo, you are a douchey McCuntface. Your penchant for ineptitude is becoming rather trying. First, you lose my Artist Alley registration for 2013, thereby effectively removing me from the coveted AA loop, dicks. Then you misinform me at AX 2014, telling me I can stand in line on Sunday and purchase a booth in person for next year. Not! And now you send me an email telling me I'm a 2015 Artist Alley participant. Yay! Did my waitlist request go through or something, I think. Only to dash my hopes and dreams by sending a follow-up email basically saying, whoops, we accidentally sent that Artist Alley participant email to our entire distribution list. Our bad. What is the deal? Why can you absolutely not get your shit together? Are you secretly a giant government bureaucracy, and do you purposefully pattern your operating systems after the DMV? Are you run by a bunch of 22-year-old volunteers who have no work ethic or experience doing any sort of organized thing?
I'd believe
Do you
that
just not give a fuck about anything except making exorbitant amounts of money off those $75 4-day passes?
Well,
Why can't this just... She says at the end, why can't this just be easy?
Because it's called Anime Expo.
That's a ton of stuff to get mad about. That's a 3-year burn she's got going. I met her at ALA last year. She was one of the Sailor Scouts I took pictures of.
Oh, okay.
So I've gotten to know her. She's soft-spoken from everything I've seen. She also has insanely long legs. And that phrase did not come from me. That came from the other cosplayers looking through the photos like behind me, just going, God, those are long legs. It's like, yeah, I was having trouble putting those in the frame. But, God, that is a lot of shit to go through. I feel sorry for her. Hopefully somebody solves that for her, but we're talking about Anime Expo.
Yeah, don't hold your breath.
Yeah. The assignment this week is Deviate Gods and Monsters. Before we do that, we'll get into the news of the week. Again, we have no crowdfunder, so we'll just jump right into the video game news. Nintendo is on a warpath of sorts against an enemy I never really pictured.
Who?
PETA.
PETA?
Okay.
PETA, not too long ago, came out with an anti-Pokemon game called Pokemon Black and Blue.
Oh, I think I've seen this article.
Yeah, I have not played it at all because PETA, to me, lost a lot of clout when some of their employees were caught on tape, euthanizing puppies via head bashing.
Ugh. I don't want to think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently at the time their shelters were full and they just didn't want to take in more animals, so you know how it is. But, this Pokemon Black and Blue apparently seems to have gotten the attention of Nintendo. And Nintendo is known for, I guess you could say, relatively benign initial responses, and that's, if you don't follow that, that's when they follow through with lawyers and you're caught in a web of nightmares. They issued a statement regarding Pokemon Black and Blue. Quote, Nintendo and the Pokemon Company take the inappropriate use of our products and intellectual property seriously, unquote.
Yeah, you can't go around and call it something like Pokemon without their permission.
Yeah, but the thing is, somebody like Nintendo releasing a statement like that is the equivalent of poking a bear in the ass and then you hear that first growl. You have a choice right then. Do you keep poking it in the ass because it's funny it made that noise, or do you think that thing is awake enough to know it's going to rip your nuts off?
Whether they do.
So, you know, if I was PETA, I would tread lightly, because something tells me a nonprofit having to do with animals will not have the clout to stand up to the armada of Japanese lawyers that will likely follow.
Yeah.
But Nintendo also has a little bit of bad news, apparently. Smash Brothers players have found a way to break the new DLC character of Mewtwo.
Oh.
Yeah, it's another...
As in
turn him into
without
a game
having to pay
breaker.
for him, or what?
No, turning him into a game breaker.
Oh. Well, he's a brand new character. Yeah, they're going to have issues with that.
Here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Some players have found out that if you import a Mii avatar into your system, view them in the character select screen, back out, then select Mewtwo, and choose random, Mewtwo will inherit the special moves of whatever Mii you viewed last.
Wow.
It's a goddamn mimic.
Alright, that's a... Yeah, someone needs to go in and fix the code on that thing.
Yeah, according to the story on Kotaku, the inheritance isn't perfect, and Mewtwo glitches the hell out. The result is a Mewtwo that can become invincible, invisible, or just plain unpredictable. That's a serious frickin' problem.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully somebody takes care of that. I don't play Smash Brothers, so I don't have a whole lot of context here, but it does appear that some players using this glitch have used Mewtwo to the point of getting simultaneous eliminations of 5 other competitors.
Damn.
And it looks like Mewtwo's just in one end of the screen,
Yeah.
does one move, and launches them into the air. 3 of them explode in the top of the sky, while 2 more end up face first on the screen somehow. It is an ugly result.
I don't play Smash Brothers either, but I've seen lots of people play it, and that's not easy. Or at least
I would hope not.
I've done, I've managed to clear the board once with the character on some of the earlier generations.
I
But
can't play
that's
Smash Brothers. It's a little too frantic in pace for me.
yeah, agreed.
Yeah, that's not the last bit of Smash Brothers news I have. This is. Smash Brothers Pro is getting a new sponsorship.
Okay.
Oh, God. One Smash Brothers Pro player, Adam Hermosa, known as Coastward, had begun sending tweets to a certain site. And he said to the Daily Dot, quote, "One day I just tweeted them asking them to sponsor me as a joke. But after they favorited that initial tweet, I kept on pushing and actually getting sponsored by them just to see if I can make it possible," unquote. Well, it turns out his Twitter campaign worked. The site did decide to back him and his Smash Brothers team.
Huh.
Yep.
Oh,
it's
good on him.
sort of. He now has to
what
explain to the rest of his...
company is-
He has to explain to the rest of his company that he is now backed by Faku.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Awesome.
Now, some people may be scratching their head. Faku is a massive hentai site.
Yep.
Oh,
All Japanese hentai porn all the time.
okay. Interesting.
Hermosa elaborated on the relationship between him and this website with Smashboards, and he said, quote, "Basically, Faku will be sending me some merch, which I can decide what to do with, as well as a promotion of any of my projects or events. Jacob just really wants to support me as a player, and I don't expect too much in return from him, since sponsoring me has already been enough. There are more things in the works, including a possible Faku jersey, but that will be announced later in the future."
Sweet.
Okay.
I actually rather
Esports.
respect Faku. I mean, they went from a literal non-entity to actually getting some big names in the Japanese doujinshi industry. They're actually producing actual books for Japan to bring over here. And
They're not the only ones doing that, though. Hentai has turned into its own business, and a lot of the fan subbings have gone legit.
yeah, but that's
It's
kind of what I mean. Is like this is essentially fan made.
The thing is, though, the thing that gets me about this particular story is now it almost seems like the tagline, if this ever goes to ESPN, is esports, where video games and porn collide.
I don't know that that's necessarily something that they even have to worry about. I mean, esports is really going to have to get way bigger before that becomes an issue.
Esports is getting televised.
So?
I don't remember the story, but I just, that's something that they may have to consider in future sponsorships, is that ESPN is actually running an esports tourney in the near future.
That means that, they probably won't allow that because, the subject nature of their sponsor. Either that or they'll just be like, okay, it's a hidden sponsor.
Well, there was another bit of esports news that came out, and I don't know if this would have been awesome or if it would have just tried my patience superbly. There was a pro Counter-Strike Global Offensive game. It took place in the UK Premiership between Team Xenex and a UK team that had much less renown called Excel Sports. EXCEL Esports, okay?
Okay.
Mhm.
Now, Xenex was a well-renowned team. Excel Esports was not that well-known. This was supposed to be over quick. Over quick, I guess, is a relative term in this game, because it was one game that took 6 overtimes and 88 rounds.
Playing
The
what?
match, one round of Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Word is that the entirety of the match took somewhere around 3 hours. Just one match took 3 hours.
Wow.
Somewhere in the middle, you have to get a pee break. But it was supposedly one of the longest knockdown, drag-out, back-and-forth in Counter-Strike history, and the longest in pro Counter-Strike Global Offensive history. According to Counter-Strike website, quote, opening up in the counter-terrorist side, Xenex went on to take the half with a 5-round lead of Excel, who had managed to take 5 rounds of their own during the half. Whilst this is a typical score for an Inferno clash, the odds were stacked heavily in favor of Xenex, who would have been aiming for a greater advantage. This was no great worry for the Xenex side, though, who began to rack up the terrorist rounds for themselves and bring the score to a comforting 14-8. At this stage in the game, something must have clicked for the Excel camp, who managed to take hold of 5 consecutive rounds before any sort of response from Xenex, who eventually led the game 15-13. Just 2 more rounds from Excel Esports saw the game lead into what could have been the longest games of Counter-Strike in memory. Apparently neither team could pull ahead significantly. Xenex did eventually take it, but Excel proved that they could dance with the bigger teams on the block all of a sudden. Holy shit, man. I don't know what venue they were at, but I seriously hope they sold nachos. I would need some at that point. Because whatever I ate going into that place was already digested and was starting to do bad things to my colon. Last bit of video game news I have is a bit of a sad one. We talked before about the new Silent Hills game that was being worked on by Hideo Kojima and Guillermo del Toro. And it starred an avatar who had an uncanny likeness to Norman Reedus. I mean, he looked just like the guy. Well, multiple sources are now saying this project is dead in the water. Guillermo del Toro himself said recently that the partnership between himself, Kojima, and Konami appears to be off, and the playable demo of Silent Hills has, if it hasn't been removed already, is going to be removed very soon from the PlayStation Store. There's no word as to what exactly happened to do this, but it just appears multiple sources are saying that Silent Hills is no longer occurring. This sounds like a huge project. I wonder what would have broken it so fundamentally.
I don't know. I heard they were just taking the demo down. That's all I heard.
I believe Del Toro was in San Francisco at an event recently. And according to somebody named Matt Hackney on Twitter, he said that Guillermo del Toro said about Silent Hills, quote, "It's not going to happen, and that breaks my greasy heart," unquote. Nobody's explaining anything about what's going on. All right. From there, we'll move into Marvel media news. We'll talk about the Marvel projects that don't end up on the comic book page. I have not made it a secret. I am not happy with my physique, so I go to the gym whenever I can. It's starting to turn around. I need a belt again, and that's interesting yet frustrating. It's nice to lose weight. It sucks when nothing fits. One thing I never thought I'd be able to say is that it is now possible to dress up like your favorite Marvel movie characters while at the gym.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Marvel has partnered with Under Armour to produce some new gym wear for you to, I guess, show your inner geek while you're at the gym, including compression shirts that will make your chest look like Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, or even the Hulk. I shit you not. I have sent you guys a link so you can take a look. And you know, some of these are really interesting. They look great to wear. I'm a little afraid to see what this would look like stretched around my girth. You know, Hulk need beer.
It doesn't look like... I mean, I can't tell what the fabric is made of. That doesn't look...
Compression shirts are typically made out of some kind of spandex derivative.
Oh, so this is like a thing.
Yes, it's for real.
Okay.
This is not fake. If you scroll down, there are some more normal workout shirts, like the Hulk sports shirt.
Oh my god, the leggings.
That's right, I forgot about the leggings. They make compression pants for workouts, too. The weight gloves with Captain America's shield, I'm a little mixed about that. Oh, they're football gloves. Oh, thank God.
I can think of some people I'd like to see in this.
I am not on that list.
Nor am I.
Some of these are interesting, others are just plain odd. However, I'm not sure how... Well, actually, I know how I feel about paying $60 for a compression shirt. That's fucking expensive. It's like, you're not just paying for the shirt, you are paying for all trademarks that are on this goddamn shirt.
I'm
I just have to say that I would not look good in these.
I would. I'd look like the retirement form of all these characters. And Marvel has managed to announce via its movie division that they have actually chosen the screenwriters for Captain Marvel, the Carol Danvers film.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
They have chosen both Nicole Perlman and Meg LaFave. The writers are best known for their work, respectively, on Guardians of the Galaxy and Inside Out.
Inside Out.
I believe Inside Out is the new Pixar movie coming about the avatars being the emotions of a 10-year-old girl as she goes through life.
Yep, that's it.
So Inside Out is already getting some pretty interesting early reviews, and we know how Guardians of the Galaxy was reviewed. This is a good start. Now let's see if they can turn out a script that's worth a damn. There's also a director that supposedly is getting his choice of what to work on. Marvel has offered a contract to writer-director Adam McKay to head up one of their Phase 3 films. As of which one, they left that up to him. Now, Adam McKay has worked on several films, and depending on your sense of humor, it's either a good list or a bad list. He's been the director of Anchorman and Talladega Nights.
Oh, God.
No.
He's the co-founder of Funny or Die. And he has also been one of the people that did some rewrites on Edgar Wright's script for Ant-Man.
Okay, well, I can't speak to that, but the rest of that...
You know, word is McKay is currently filming a comedic drama called The Big Short, and 4 Phase 3 films have yet to find directors. That's Thor Ragnarok, Captain Marvel, Black Panther, and Inhumans. So those would be likely one of those films would be likely to be his. So, I don't know what to say. It's an interesting choice of films. It's not like he's getting any of the tentpoles, though. Let's see. Do we care about early reviews for Age of Ultron?
Not really. I mean, I'm going to think it's going to be good, regardless of what the reviews say, so...
Yeah, I tend to listen to reviews very, very rarely. I find they get it wrong more often than they get it right.
All right, I'll tell you what. I will go over what I basically found out from a lot of the early reviewers. There are some that say that this movie hits the exact notes you would expect. There's a few that say that this is an outstanding follow-up. There's a surprising amount that say that this movie is not that great.
Yeah, but everyone's going to say that.
Yeah, it falls... Some of the negative reviews say it falls into the typical superhero tropes. It's like, these are comic books. Don't you kind of expect that to certain degrees?
Yeah, they're supposed to be tropey.
You know, what happens if they make an actual serious superhero film? We get Hobo of Steel. Or we get Christian Bale chewing on scenery for 3 films. In Marvel Media News, it has been reported that we have a premise now for the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. spinoff.
Oh, really?
Yep, they haven't given it a title yet, but the characters that this new series will center around is Adriana Palicki as Bobby Morse or Mockingbird, and her partner in the series, Nick Blood, playing Lance Hunter.
Oh.
Huh.
I really like her.
Yeah, they've taken the odd couple from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and apparently they are the focus of the new show. Still no word. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think that's a good move, because they've done a lot of developing on that character, but she still seems somehow apart from the rest of the group. Like, she and her partner are good characters, but they're not very well integrated.
Well, I think the problem with that, though, is that they're sequel characters. They were brought in Season 2, and no matter how good they're established, there's always going to be that weird constituency that's constantly going to compare Morse and Hunter to Ward and May all the time.
Yeah, I guess, but I like on Hunter. On the other hand, I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but I think he completely fits in with them.
He does. He's an interesting character, but I don't even know how this is going to stack up, or I don't know how this is going to come about. It will be interesting to me. I'm anxious to see where this series will go. It's just not high on my priority list at the moment. You know, my thing going into this with Bobby Morse being introduced, I always thought she'd get a bump up to like the full movie verse and end up in a film somewhere.
That I could see that happening, honestly. But does she have powers in the comics or anything? Oh.
Never. She's always been one of the most talented fighters they've ever seen, and one of the few characters who didn't start out as an Avenger. She started out as a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. She was a liaison to the Avengers for a while, and then her rep grew, and they gave her a costume.
Nice.
However, in current Marvel comics, she's probably one of the most tragic characters there is right now.
I don't know if I want to know. Do I want to know?
It's not as bad as it sounds, but added up, and it's pretty fucking horrible. In the 80s, during the West Coast Avengers, when the Avengers were split into two teams, she was on the team with Hawkeye, her husband at the time. They were having marital troubles. They got back together. And towards the end of that series, she was killed. Then, fast forward 2 decades later, probably closer to 3, it turns out that the Bobby Morse that died in Clint Barton's arms wasn't her, it was a Skrull in disguise who had been on deep cover. She had been replaced.
Oh, I had heard of this.
Yeah, so when Secret Invasion comes around, she finally gets back to Earth. Hawkeye is more than elated to see his wife again, tries to restart the relationship. Then he finds out that she was kidnapped before they reconciled.
Oops.
Oh.
So the woman he got back together with was a Skrull the entire time. She didn't harbor any serious romantic feelings for him, but she still has to work very closely with this a-hole. I would have liked to have seen that played across the screen, but now that I've said that out loud, it either sounds like a day in the life of, like, you know, the days of our lives, or it sounds like a storyline coming straight off of Monday Night Raw. So
yeah, I can't really see that chemistry happening between the existing Hawkeye and Bobby Morse personally, but
I think it's possible, but they'll be too busy like swinging truncheons and firing arrows for it to really develop.
Yeah.
Further into Marvel Media News, good news for us all. They've announced a second season of Daredevil already.
Oh, yeah.
Hell yes. I really like the show.
Oh, you don't understand. Marvel confirmed that the show will receive a second run of episodes that will air in 2016, with a.k.a. Jessica Jones making his debut later this year, and Luke Cage starting in 2016. So it's like, it sounds like before Iron Fist even gets his show, there's going to be a second season of Daredevil. According to the press statement, though, the showrunner, Stephen DeKnight, is leaving the show. According to his statement, quote, "While previous commitments unfortunately prevent me from continuing on with Daredevil into its second season, I could not be happier that Doug Petrie and Marco Ramirez are carrying the torch. They were invaluable collaborators during our first season, and I, for one, can't wait to see what they do with the show moving forward," unquote. DeKnight further elaborated that he's working on a feature film. Unfortunately, he just doesn't have the schedule to keep working on Daredevil at this time. God, so that means by 2016 we'll have AKA Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Season 2 Daredevil. And probably later in 2016 will be Iron Fist.
And eventually we'll get to Defenders.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be that Marvel was just ruling the cinematic world when it came to comic book movies, and then DC was doing pretty good with its TV shows, specifically on, like, CW. Now it looks like Marvel's gotten impatient. They're just cranking out shit all of a sudden. I wouldn't be surprised if soon Forbush Man gets his own series.
Right?
Yeah, money bursting at the seams. They gotta spend it somehow.
It's really good entertainment.
I know they've actually managed to make these characters awesome. I mean, I never thought I'd be a fan of Captain America or Daredevil, but here I sit. Sony is moving forward with their Spider-Man plans. They've announced what movie they're working on for the character in 2018. They kind of threw everybody sideways. They've announced that they're working on a Spider-Man animated film.
Huh?
Hello? Okay.
Spider-Man. Why?
I don't have an explanation for this. At CinemaCon in Las Vegas, Sony announced the Lego movie directors of Phil Lord and Christopher Miller will write and produce, but are not signed to direct, a Spider-Man animated feature for a release date of July 20, 2018. Now, this film is going to exist independently of previous Spider-Man live-action films, according to this, which are continuing in the Sony press release.
Oh.
I don't know. I'm not entirely excited about that announcement. I wonder if that'll confuse people who aren't as deep into the news that there's a Spider-Man animated film coming out after a Spider-Man live-action film by two separate studios.
Yeah, it's going to be confusing as hell.
Yeah. Let alone the animated one will not be canon, which is just going to be even weirder. Joss Whedon talked a little bit about Edgar Wright's rejected Ant-Man script. Whedon called it the best script Marvel ever had.
And they threw it away because...
They didn't throw it away. Remember, they took it through some rewrites. According to Whedon's interview with BuzzFeed News, he said, quote, "Only that I don't get it." He said, quote, "Only that I don't get. I thought the script was not only the best script that Marvel ever had, but the most Marvel script I'd read. I had no interest in Ant-Man then. I read the script, and I was like, of course, this is so good. It reminded me of the books when I read them. Irreverent and funny, and could make what was small large, and vice versa. I don't know where things went wrong, but I was very sad because I thought, this is a no-brainer. This is Marvel getting it exactly right. Whatever dissonance that came, whatever it was, I don't understand why it was bigger than a marriage that seemed so right. But I'm not going to say that this was definitively all Marvel or Edgar's gone mad. I felt like they would complement each other by the ways that they were different, and something happened," unquote. By the description, I could sort of guess what might have happened. It sounded like the script that Edgar Wright came up with was a lot like the Eric O'Grady Ant-Man, who treated the suit like pretty much a joke.
Oh.
You've never read the Eric O'Grady days of Ant-Man, have you?
I haven't read Ant-Man.
Okay, Eric O'Grady, we know who Hank Pym is. He's a man with some mental troubles who's tried his best. We know who Scott Lang is. He's the thief who turned over a new leaf, and it turns out he's very technologically sound. Eric O'Grady...
Oh, that's the one that got eaten by...
Cage.
Yeah, Luke Cage, and yeah. Okay.
But Eric O'Grady's story is actually much more pathetic than you think. Eric O'Grady was a low-grade S.H.I.E.L.D. agent whose job was to watch the room with all the bizarre shit in it. And then one day he decided to play around with said bizarre shit and found a prototype for a new Ant-Man costume that Lang and Pym had worked on but had not finished. He used it in the most unheroic ways possible, including spying on fellow S.H.I.E.L.D. agents in the shower. One of which blew the shower head off because it turns out that particular S.H.I.E.L.D. agent was Carol Danvers.
Oops.
So it sounds like Edgar Wright's original script channeled a lot of Eric O'Grady, and Marvel may have stepped it back a bit so that they could put Scott Lang in the role. Well, in regard to Age of Ultron, there's a little bit of controversy that's come out this week. Chris Evans and Jeremy Renner have had to issue apologies about what they said about the Black Widow.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You know how the press junkets are for these movies? They tend to get some or all of the actors to sit down in bad directors' chairs and ask them a bunch of fluff questions that barely make you even wonder about the film, so much as, how much time did they spend on his hair? Well, Renner and Evans were sitting down with a reporter in one of these junkets, and the reporter asked the pair what they thought of the coupling of the Black Widow and Bruce Banner, who turns into the Hulk. And Renner just apparently joked relatively straight-faced, "She's a slut."
Oh.
And that's when Renner just said, "She's a slut." To which Evans' response was breaking out in laughter and then saying, quote, "I was going to say something along that line. She's a complete whore," unquote. And the host...
Penis envy.
The reporter decided to add, quote, "Whatever movie it is, she'll just be the sidekick. She'll be flirting," unquote. And then Renner and Evans agreed, and Evans responded with, quote, "She'll just flirt with everybody," unquote. And then Renner put an end to the whole questioning and noted, quote, "She has a prosthetic leg anyway," unquote.
What?
She has a prosthetic leg anyway. He just threw in some random bullshit. So the two of them sat down with the reporter and had a moment. Unfortunately, that was recorded and broadcast, and that brought certain groups out of the woodwork who just thought that they were being misogynist and slut-shaming and all this weird bullshit.
You're just joking, right?
Yeah, two guys just sitting there having fun in the moment, and they're being derided for it. They had to issue an apology.
That's lame. I mean,
They submitted a statement via Chris Evans that said, quote, "We answered in a very juvenile and offensive way that rightfully angered some fans. I regret it and sincerely apologize." Renner echoed those statements with a similarly crafted concession that said, quote, "I am sorry that this tasteless joke about a fictional character offended anyone. It was not meant to be serious in any way. Just poking fun during an exhausting and tedious press tour," unquote.
Yeah, like, I could tell that they were just joking around.
I love his original statement there.
What do you mean?
Well, just, the fact that he says, I apologize, I'm sorry that basically...
Oh, this tasteless joke about a fictional character?
Joke about a fictional character upset people. Because, really, that's what it's come down to.
You know what? The weirdest part is the few interviews I've seen with Scarlett Johansson, she has a very matter-of-fact form of speech. And I don't mean that in the form of she's talking about everything like it's a book tour. She just seems to say whatever is on her mind in that moment. I would picture if she was in the room listening to this ridiculous press junket, you would probably hear laughter off to the side.
Yeah, she'd probably play along. Honestly, like if she was there with him, I think.
Yeah, this is just way overblown for two guys who obviously had been asked too many stupid-ass questions that day.
Yeah.
Marvel does have a short list of people they're considering to play Peter Parker in their new Spider-Man film. Supposedly, the people on this short list are Nat Wolff from The Fault in Our Stars, Asia Butterfield from Ender's Game. That sounds like a porn title. Tom Holland from The Impossible, Timothy Chalamet from Interstellar, and Liam James from The Way, Way Back.
None of those movies.
Yeah, I've seen none of them. Asia Butterfield is the only name I know, and I don't even know why.
Interstellar is amazing, but I don't know the name.
Probably played a kid in the film. However, there was some new news. It came out of the Sony hack from last year. You guys remember that when somebody hacked into Sony and started releasing a bunch of documents and emails that embarrassed a bunch of people?
Yeah, obviously.
Okay. There was a Twitter user in November 2013 that used the handle Duke Loves You and said that Sony Pictures CEO Michael Linton received an email from Nick Shore, who is an ex-MTV executive who now runs a Sony venture called Astronauts Wanted, No Experience Necessary. The idea of this Astronauts Wanted is to reach millennials via Vine and social media. Basically a job where you sit on your phone all day typing in idiocy. Okay, so what Shore sent to CEO Michael Linton was a pitch for a new Spider-Man idea. And the guy was insane. I will say that now. This is the email that he sent to the Sony CEO. Quote, Spidey thought, hey Amy, just a couple of rando thoughts from 35,000 from LAX to JFK. A rising trend we see with millennials are the really extreme forms of experimental exercise like Tough Mudder, a sort of filthy triathlon, the Color Run, and even things like hot power yoga, veganism, etc. Millennials will often post NBD on their social media after doing it, as in no big deal, also known as the humble brag. Wondering if Spidey could get into that in some way. He's super athletic, bendy, strong, intense, and it's all NBD to him, of course. EDM, or electronic dance music, is the defining music for millennials. Wondering if there is an EDM angle somewhere with Spidey. His movements are beautiful. Would be awesome with a killer DJ behind it. Snapchat just launched a story functionality, which is sort of a day in the life of me, told in a series of Snapchats that expire after 24 hours. It has a very VIP quality about it, since innovation only. Getting invited into Spidey's Snapchat circle would be huge and very buzzworthy and cool, unquote.
Okay.
So, basically what his idea was to turn Spider-Man into a millennial slacker rave fan. This sounds like the shittiest idea I've heard since they put Ben Affleck in red leather for Daredevil.
And
Well,
I
they're
can't
looking
imagine
for
him
ways
keeping
to
his secret
modernize
identity
them
doing
and-
this
and-
either.
Yeah. I mean, I can somewhat see it from the standpoint of, he's always gone out and taken pictures of himself in the suit and sold it to the Daily Bugle and whatnot as a way of making money. So if there was a way to make money from, going about this kind of an angle, then I guess I could see that as a more modern take. But yeah, it's...
The thing is, though, I could understand Spider-Man making money off social media. Too many meatheads do it already. Here we sit, right? But the thing that really gets me is the idea that you're walking around, you walk by a hot yoga studio, look in the window, there's a bunch of women in yoga pants trying to do like a downwards dog, and then you spot the guy in the blue and red spandex in the back. Or for some reason you're 15 years old, you're in a rave, bubbles are all over the floor, you're swinging the gloves with the lights in the fingertips, you're half high, and then there's somebody swinging on a web from the ceiling. I can't be the only one that thinks this is a shitty idea.
No, I don't think it sounds like a good idea. Other than, for one thing, there's no way that you would ever get Spider-Man into a yoga class because, gasp, it's a secret identity type situation, and the rest of the city doesn't really approve of him that much.
Maybe he's in
Spider-Man going out in public and participating in shit like that, it's not going to happen.
I can see him photobombing once in a while, but...
Definitely, I could see that. Just somebody's taking a picture over in the Statue of Liberty, and what's that in the background? Spidey upside down, hanging from his web, doing a upside down victory sign, or something like that. Whatever. But
wouldn't that be the weirdest way to introduce him into the new Marvel cinematic continuity? The Avengers get together for a photo, they take the picture, Tony Stark is looking at it, puts it on the wall, and says, "What the fuck is that?"
that's like that little short that somebody put up, with Hawkeye talking to Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver in the Marvel and the upcoming Avengers movie. He's like, if you go out there, you're going to be Avengers, and you just see Spider-Man's boots running by. Okay, he's out the door.
Yeah.
Last bit of Marvel media news I have is kind of an interesting one, because Charlie Cox was told that he got a Season 2 for Daredevil. Obviously, he's excited. He gets to make more money. And Empire decided to ask him about all things Season 2. And Charlie gave up his character wish list. He said, quote, based on the show we created, which is very grounded in reality, I'd like to see Punisher maybe show up, or a little bit of Elektra maybe. I wouldn't mind Black Widow making an appearance. And you can't think about Daredevil for too long without thinking of Bullseye. I don't know when or if or how that would happen, but it'd be cool if it did, unquote. as far as that list, all I can say is, yes.
Yeah.
All of it. Don't get choosy. Just throw it all in there.
Yeah, but at the same time, I know that it's an episodic format. It gives them a little bit more to put in. But if they threw all of those in just in season 2, I think that would be a bad idea.
Yes. Look at Spider-Man 3.
Spider-Man 3. No, Spider-Man 3 was a bad idea because of writing. Not characters. Writing was a real problem.
No, I think it was a bad idea because of characters as well. They tried to do way too much with it. Sandman plus, the revival of Green Goblin plus Venom? Fuck no.
It was a fucking afterthought.
The thing is, you could have really made a great movie crafted around all the characters in it, but the writers had no concept of any of the characters in it. They didn't know how any of them worked.
Yeah, but if you're dealing with that kind of a situation, limiting them to one character at least would have given them more time to get an idea. I think they were just way too scattered.
I don't know. I would say that if anybody could pull it off, it's the writers that are behind Daredevil. I mean, they introduced 7 new characters, and it all made sense in the end. Because after all, we're not talking about the usual.
They had 13 hours to do it in.
Yeah, we're not talking about the usual time constraints of 2.5 hours. They had 13 hours, and they made it all work.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, wouldn't that be something? Daredevil's New Adventures is first he hears about some bizarre murders all at gunpoint, and somebody's carving skulls into people's heads. I'm loading up.
Whatever they bring to us, honestly.
Okay, we'll bounce into the DC media news, and DC, of course, has a whole bunch of stuff happening revolving around Batman v Superman. You're not going to let Age of Ultron take away all the thunder in this month. They've got to try to get some of it back and have some anticipation for their own film. They had a special event of a debut of the Batman v Superman trailer at IMAX movies, or IMAX theaters.
Really?
This happened last Monday at IMAX theaters nationwide. It had an interesting wrinkle to it, though. For people who entered the theaters as ticket holders to the special event, they got a complimentary pass to the full Batman v Superman movie 1 week earlier than the announced March 25th, 2016 release date.
Uh-huh.
And all they should do is return to the same theater they watched the trailer in. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
Definitely praise ticket holders. I guess my only question is, how much are those tickets? Because for God's sakes, if it's... somebody's got a stupid car. Because if that cost me like $35 for that seat, no, I'll just wait for the movie to come out. Thank you.
Yep, just get to watch high definition gray.
Yeah. And actually, we played the trailer last week. We went through it, and we seemed to decide that while it makes things more interesting, it wasn't quite for us, right? Does that sound correct?
I don't remember. Maybe
you don't remember the trailer?
Which trailer again?
No,
I'm pretty aren't good, so...
The Batman v Superman
trailer. I know we watched the trailer.
Oh,
yeah. I remember everybody. I just don't remember anything in it or so forth. So.
Okay. Well, fortunately for us,
to tune anything that isn't good out.
Okay, so you don't remember your day-to-day life? What?
Pretty much.
Well, I have fun in my day-to-day life because I leave shit like that out of it.
Okay, well, I got something to share with you guys, because it turns out Screen Junkies is faster than you think they are. They've put out what they call the Honest Movie Teaser in regards to Batman v Superman. Okay. You guys want to see what they did?
Sure.
Yeah, it would probably be amusing.
Alright. There it is. An Honest Movie Teaser.
Is it really surprising that a movie starring the two most iconic superheroes in the world would be controversial?
Everybody loves Superman. Who doesn't love Superman?
So, they've changed the audio.
Superman movie. And now they're just cramming in the whole Justice. DC has a horrible track record. Green Lantern? I mean, come on.
Oh my God.
Dark Knight trilogy. Christopher Nolan's totally involved in these. You're just a butthurt Marvel fanboy. Ant-Man looks stupid. There, I see.
Every comic book movie has to be fun. What are you, 12?
Stop with the brooding. The only one who gets to brood...
Not every comic book movie has to be fun. They're reading internet comments.
Trying to make a good movie.
It looks like Sucker Punch.
Looks like Sucker Punch?
Warner Brothers casting Ben Affleck
Wow.
as Batman. Returned fanboys. Crew. Horns. Get ready.
Horns.
To debate a teaser that will probably generate more than the movie itself. Horns.
The movie itself.
Tell me, is my Batman voice better than Christian Bale's?
Batman featuring Superman. Rush to the Justice League.
It's like a year till the movie comes out. Give it time. I'm just saying.
Well, that was fun.
Holy shit.
Okay, I remember the trailer now. I remember also why I forgot it.
Man, they just threw a monkey wrench directly at it.
Yep.
You can actually vote to make that little teaser trailer by Honest Trailers a Best in the Webbies award. But I have a second video regarding the Batman v Superman trailer. I have not seen this at all, and now I'm morbidly curious. Somebody recut the entirety of the Batman v Superman trailer with Adam West and Christopher Reeve.
Okay.
Holy shit, Jesse broke! What happened there? Alright, I guess that means I should just send it over. It sounds like you've already made a decision.
Yeah.
Alright, there it is.
Is it really surprising that the most powerful man in the world should be a figure of controversy?
We, as a population on this planet, have been looking for a savior.
There's Reeves.
We're talking about a being whose very existence
They are not telling us the truth.
challenges our own sense of priority in the universe.
Human beings have a horrible track record of...
Maybe it's just my childhood speaking, but I respect this more already.
Yeah, me too.
Absolutely. Chaos.
Maybe he's just a guy trying to do the right thing.
We know better now, don't we? Devils don't come from hell.
They brought their warriors.
They come from the sky.
The world has been so caught up with what he can do.
Oh yeah, that's when he dropped Lois. Nice guy that he is.
That's how it started.
My god, Reeve just encapsulated that character in his day.
The fever,
Yeah.
the rage,
There's Adam.
the feeling of powerlessness.
I love the fact that sliding down the pole gives them the instant costume change of lever.
Cruel.
Yeah. At least you have a choice. Chafed thighs or no chafed thighs. Ah, the bomb! Ooh, bat shark repellent?
The Bat Blade.
Tell me, do you bleed?
Oh, that has my respect.
I'd watch that.
Yeah, that was done by Bobby Burns. That actually looks like it'd be a fun movie.
I laugh now, but I would not watch this.
I would wholeheartedly.
I would
The
not.
tease would be so great.
Da-la-la-la.
Well, we got a full view of the Batman v Superman Batsuit thanks to a tweet by Zack Snyder. And I don't know. There's something weird about this Batsuit. It looks like it was built out of duct tape. I sent the image so you guys could take a look at it.
Duct tape?
Yeah, it looks like a bunch of strips of stuff all put together and layered up.
It's just... So what is it made of?
I don't know what it's supposed to be made of in the movie. I mean, I assume it's an armor of some sort. But it looks like a patchwork of some sort.
No, it doesn't to me. It looks more leather.
Yeah, I
it
was
looks
gonna
more
say.
leather.
Actually, it looks almost stone-like at the moment, but
Batman's a leather daddy.
Yeah, the texture looks weird, but it looks leather to me.
Looks like vinyl.
It could be vinyl.
That too.
Yeah, Batman's protected by the same stuff that protects your car seats.
No, vinyl is
Not
supposed
gonna
to be
stop
pretty
at knife. Must be awful in the summer.
Oh, God. In that black car, no less.
Oh, come on.
Well,
all of the costumes have air conditioning now. You can't tell me that Batman hasn't forked over some money for AC in his suit.
that's why he hires Robin for. He just fans him with the cape.
The half cape.
Yeah.
You can tell me where he's going to hide an air conditioning unit in that form-fitting suit.
I'm sure he has an orifice or two. DC is coming out with a first-of-its-kind action figure, though.
Really?
Yeah, this character has received a lot of action figures before, but not in this format. They're actually making a Dr. Harleen Quinzel action figure.
Oh. Doctor?
The alter ego of Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's...
The figure is based on the character's appearance in Batman Arkham Origins, the Warner Brothers game that didn't have Rockstar working on it. So they've actually created an action figure based around Harley Quinn before she was batshit crazy. They're sending it out at the same time that they're doing figures for Lady Shiva and the Electrocutioner. They're all being released in December for $70. As far as the Suicide Squad film goes, we've received news that a new actor has been cast in an unknown role. The rapper and poet Common is getting a role in the film. Common, I don't quite know where to tell you where he's been. I know he's a Grammy Award-winning musician. I know he was in that really shit film Wanted. He was the black bald guy that was in like 3/4 of the movie.
Yeah.
He's joining the cast that includes Will Smith, Jared Leto, Viola Davis, Joel Kinnaman, Adewale Akinoue, Agbaje. I almost made it through that. So he's casting an unknown role. The bigger news about the Suicide Squad film, though, is that a new tweet has appeared that details what Jared Leto is going to look like as the Joker.
Yeah, I saw that.
Holy shit, man. This looks like Sony's idea for Spider-Man, frankly. V, have you seen this picture?
Maybe? I don't know. Link.
Wow, okay.
Link, please?
Oh, alright. Hang on. Website's acting a little weird, and it takes a second to pull this apart. There we go. God, Twitter couldn't make that any more complicated if they tried. Here, take a look at this. This apparently is an official tweet of what Jared Leto will look like as the Joker.
Oh my. It looks like Marilyn Manson.
You're not the first person to make that comparison, unfortunately. For those of you that have not seen it, obviously we'll add a picture to the MSP website that goes with this podcast. But in short, it's Jared Leto with no shirt on. The Joker has grills for some reason, and multiple tattoos all over his upper body. I see a skull with a jester's cap on. I see ha 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 all over several locations. What looks to be a hand of poker with 5 aces of spades. His own smile is on his forearm.
Damn, I assume across his forehead.
Yeah, I assume across his midsection there, that's Joker in like Spanish script. Several other things I can't quite figure out on there based on the where it is. What's with the J teardrop tattoo? Has he been to prison?
Apparently.
You know, this whole thing is whacked out. The grills really throw me. That is just way beyond anything I could think of that would be reasonable.
How many times do you think he's got hit in the face?
About as many times as your average hockey player, according to those teams.
But never in the nose.
Yeah. The internet has had several interesting responses to this picture. There are a lot of people that like it. There's several others that are apparently going a little bit crazy. There is one person that asked if the Joker is a juggalo. There was a couple others. One of my favorite ones was a picture of a side-by-side of what the new Batman's going to look like in Batman v Superman based on this character. You get all kinds of weird tattoos. You had Batman across his midsection, the Batman symbol with a heart on his chest. I really like the forehead tattoo that said, "I lost my mom and dad, and that is why I fight."
The dollar signs on one of his arms. I'm rich.
You know, I was moderately behind the Suicide Squad film because it's a risky tale, and it was a big chance that Warner Brothers was taking making this movie. Now I'm convinced that they've taken that chance, flushed it, fished it back out of the toilet, put it on the counter, and then flushed it again.
I don't know. It still remains to be seen, but yeah, this particular take on the Joker does leave me a bit worried.
Yeah,
between the direction and the fact that Will Smith is in one of the starring roles, I'm intensely fucking worried.
I'll be honest, the whole tattoo thing does give him a level of crazy, especially with all the other aesthetics they put on him. But it's like it's not the same kind. It's not the same kind of crazy that we would normally associate with the Joker.
I don't even know where to go with this, man. It is just really fracking weird as far as I can see.
Well, there was that other picture that somebody posted with the 3 takes on the Joker so far in cinematic films. So they put up Jack Nicholson and basically labeled it mobster, and then they put up Heath Ledger's Joker and labeled that nihilist, and then for Jared Leto's psychopath, which I have to agree. That definitely seems to be the way they're going with this Joker. That definitely that particular look on him screams psychopath to me.
Okay, well, we do have some new news. Well, actually, before that, we do have an item here regarding Jason Momoa talking about Aquaman.
Oh, is he doing another fuck Marvel?
Well, not quite. He was at Calgary Comic Expo. We talked about them last week. They had the weird controversy regarding the Honey Badgers booth.
Mm-hmm.
And he was actually at a panel at Calgary Comic Expo. And according to Gotham News, he stood on that stage and told the crowd, like it or not, I'm the new fucking Aquaman, buddy. He talked about adapting Aquaman to the big screen, saying, quote, I've been hanging out with Jeff Johns and he's a blast. He reinvented the character with a new 52. It has to be realistic, and there's a ton of stuff in the comics that won't work on the screen, unquote.
Sounds right.
It sounds sort of right. Can we drop the realistic tome about a movie for a man that breathes underwater?
I don't know. If they give him gills, then that's at least a little bit more realistic.
I don't know. If you want realistic, to me, the first minutes of the movie is him diving into the water, choking and drowning. That's realistic.
There's realistic, and then there's, realism, I guess.
Yeah, and the realistic take we've seen on the Fantastic Four is giving me diarrhea, so it's all in perspective.
Yeah, I don't know. I have more hope for this Aquaman knowing that the person that designed the new 52 Aquaman is having a say in this, because I actually like that Aquaman.
Okay. Let's see. There is a young British actor named Franz Drame. He's a young black actor. He's been cast in the Arrow Flash spinoff in one of the unknown roles. They haven't said what his role is. There was a listing for a young African athlete in the movie, somebody who's going to keep the team grounded, but is also developing his own abilities. The internet has had some interesting theories as to what this character could play, or who this actor is going to play. Speculation has said it could be Static from the Teenage Hero line, could be Black Lightning or Black Vulcan, depending on which version of the character you're talking about. There was an interesting theory that said that he could be Wally West.
Yeah.
So all of those are, in my opinion, very good guesses. But the fact that he's an athlete who's dealing with some kind of odd stimulus and trying to keep the team grounded and keeps remarking about how odd everything they're doing is, that almost sounds like Cyborg, doesn't it? Young Victor Stone?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Last bit of DC media news I have, we actually have a video of what the Batmobile is going to look like in Batman v Superman.
Is it a tank?
No, if I had to liken it to anything, it reminds me of the Doom Buggies from Megaforce.
Huh? Pictures, please.
It's not a picture. It's a video.
Oh.
I sent the link. There it is on the smoky street.
It reminds
like,
me of that one
like
from the one from the Val Kilmer one.
Oh, I think it was
Slightly.
Batman Forever. Was that Forever?
I think so.
Yeah,
like
that was
some
Batman
kind of racer.
It does look like something straight out of the Joel Schumacher era of Batman films.
I can see a hint of like Mad Max in there.
It also reminds me a little bit of those three-wheeled motorcycles, the Polarises or something.
I guess with the flared area over the wheels.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, I like that version of the Batmobile more than the Tumbler from the previous movies, because that to me didn't seem so much like. I mean, it's called the freaking Batmobile. That was a fucking tank. You know, it's like there's a little bit of a difference. That look to me looks more like something that you could call the Batmobile.
I don't know. I'm on the fence because I like the idea of the Tumbler. However, it was way overused in the Nolan films. Because the Tumbler as a concept, as an assault vehicle, very nice. But when it came to actual driving ability, it doesn't seem like you need a terrible amount to run everything over.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, let's face it.
Like I said,
every
it was a
Batmobile
fucking
that
tank.
I've seen on every Batmobile I've seen on film and whatnot since Tim Burton, it's always been fucking bulletproof. So I don't see what's the problem.
Yeah, but I mean they're bullet resistant. You know, enough shooting you can get through it. The Tumbler was something completely different. The Tumbler was just meant to run over shit.
Yeah, it was an armored
The Tumbler was
attack
meant to
vehicle.
jump chasms.
Well, that's why it had the jet booster on the back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's why the 1984 Firebird that David Hasselhoff had the same thing. Somebody got it. Alright, we'll move into general media news. There are some nerdy projects on TV and movies that just aren't Marvel and DC related, but we're not going to ignore them. In the case of our first story, as much as we'd like to ignore them. Tyler Perry's gotten a new job in a movie.
Who?
You guys familiar with that actor?
Yeah, what gender is he playing this time?
That might
Tyler
be...
Perry?
Yeah, Tyler Perry's the guy who did all those freaking Medea movies that annoy the piss out of me.
Oh.
Yeah. You know, he's also the guy whose name is like 5 places in the title. You know, Tyler Perry produces a Tyler Perry film directed by Tyler Perry, written by Tyler Perry, and starring Tyler Perry as Medea in Tyler Perry drives me fucking batshit.
None of those things look like things I want to watch ever.
Okay, well this is all bundled into something I'm sure you won't want to watch ever, because he just landed the job of mad scientist Baxter Stockman in the movie Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
Oh, you get to play alongside Stephen Amell, who's doing Casey Jones.
Yeah. This sounds like an awful day at the movies.
Well, the first one wasn't that great, so...
I still haven't seen the first film.
Neither have I.
I had to remind myself. I was like, wait, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2? Oh, yeah, that's right. I missed that one.
You're not missing much.
It's hard for me to recommend that you go out to watch the first movie.
Go out.
I've
I don't
heard a
think there's
few
any
people
place
that
I could
liked
go
it,
out to
but-
watch that movie.
I don't know. You have some friends, don't you?
Yeah. What
I
does that
think
have
he's
to do
pointing
with
out that
going
the movie
out?
isn't
theaters
out
anymore?
places.
Just anything about theaters. Go to a friend's house, get some popcorn, laugh for a while, I suppose. Because watching this movie by yourself, take it from personal experience, it's freaking depressing.
Yeah, that assumes that any of my friends own this film.
They don't have Netflix or anything?
Jimmy
yeah,
has
David.
Netflix. Don't plan on going over there.
Well, not only that, Michael Bay released some new images of from working on the set of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, including the new Battle Wagon.
It's a
I don't know
truck.
I don't know if that's an upgrade or a downgrade.
No, not a dump truck. A garbage truck.
Yeah, it's a giant garbage truck painted green and yellow with a manhole cover welded to the front.
It looks like the damn party wagon from the '80s show. It
looks like he repurposed something from one of his Transformers movies.
He might have.
He also had what appears to be a picture of a Polaris three-wheel motorcycle and a sign of the Tartaruga Brothers, okay. Which it turns out is turtle in another language, so he's not even pretending to be subtle on this one. I know where my money's not going. However, new comic book movies are on the way. We talked a few weeks ago about how Valiant landed a contract with Sony to produce movies based on their comic properties. It's been announced that it's going to be a 5-picture deal being led by the independent comic characters of Bloodshot and Harbinger. They're actually getting their own films starting early in 2017. That doesn't give them a lot of time to actually, get a cast and a script and a crew.
Yeah. It's supposed to release then? Yeah.
Oh, wait. For 2017 Bloodshot, for the Bloodshot film, Sony has already secured John Wick directors David Lettich and Chad Stahelski, and already has a screenplay written by Kick-Ass 2's writer Jeff Wardlow. And The Thing's Eric Hesserer. Matthew Vaughn and Jason Cathari are on board as executive producers, so Bloodshot already sounds like it's well along. The Harbinger movie has no directors, but already has a co-writer, Eric Hesserer, writing the screenplay. So they are busy on this. I wonder if they'll be any good. I'm starting to lose faith in Sony as making comic book films. V, news that's going to tickle your ears a little bit.
Oh?
It's been announced that Star Trek 3 is going to be titled Star Trek Beyond.
Beyond what?
Beyond Uranus. No.
The search for your colon.
Well, Simon Pegg is co-writing the movie with Doug Young, and he said about the movie, quote, "We just want to take it forward with the spirit of the TV show. And it's a story about frontierism and adventure and optimism and fun, and that's where we want to take it, Where no man has gone before. Where no one has gone before. Sensibly corrected for a slighter, more enlightened generation." But yeah, that's the mood of the moment, unquote.
I'm looking forward to that.
So it sounds like that they're going to try and take the Enterprise into completely uncharted territory is the idea.
Seems like they
cool.
can't follow the line of movies that the original film franchise did.
Even though they tried. Well, I was about to get the tasteless joke about Leonard Nimoy, but I think I'll just skip that.
I wouldn't want a complete remake of all the original movies. That would not. No.
Yeah, I never liked step-by-step remakes, man. That's boring. Yeah. Show me something.
I liked the homage to The Wrath of Khan, but I appreciate that didn't turn out quite the same.
Yeah. Actually, speaking in the realm of remakes, you know how we've seen that timeline of Marvel movies Disney has put out?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Disney didn't feel like being left out in the cold, so they put out a timeline from a recent meeting and presentation of what they're working on that isn't necessarily Marvel. They put out a timeline of some of their bigger blockbusters they're working on. From 2015 to 2017, these are the movies that are going to come out in approximate chronological order. Avengers, Age of Ultron, Tomorrowland, Inside Out, Ant-Man, Bridge of Spies, The Good Dinosaur, Star Wars, The Force Awakens, Disney's The Finest Hours, Disney's Zootopia, Disney's The Jungle Book, Captain America. Sorry?
I forgot about The Jungle Book.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Captain Jungle Book. And that's apparently the first half of this calendar. We still have Captain America, Civil War, Disney's Alice Through the Looking Glass, Pixar's Finding Dory, Disney's BFG. I hope that doesn't mean Big Fucking Gun. This one goes back to my childhood. somewhere around the fall of 2016, we can expect the new Pete's Dragon.
Oh, yeah.
I've never seen that movie.
It keeps going forward. We still have Disney's Moana, Marvel's Doctor Strange, Star Wars, Rogue One, Beauty and the Beast, The Ghost in the Shell.
What?
The Ghost in the Shell, the live-action movie, starring Charlize Theron, if I remember correctly. No, starring Scarlett Johansson, actually.
Okay.
Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Star Wars Episode 8, Toy Story 4, and Pirates of the Caribbean 5. The subtitle of that is Dead Men Tell No Tales.
Are they going to find kill Johnny Depp?
I don't know. For all I know, they'll turn the ride back into what it's supposed to be.
Well, considering the fact that they've already killed Johnny Depp.
Did they? He was in the fourth one and he made it through the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They killed him in the second one and brought him back in the third.
That's right. That comic book
yeah.
Yeah. I love comic book arcs and that.
Or was they killed him in the first one and brought him back in the second? I can't remember.
They killed him in the second and back in the third.
Yeah, you were right the first time.
Okay. So I haven't seen the fourth movie yet.
And not missing much.
I liked it.
I fell asleep every time.
I like the movies.
So if you're at a convention and you need no-dos, the fourth Pirates of the Caribbean film is very good at that. Now, they have released, during the Star Wars celebration, a short synopsis of what Star Wars Rogue One is supposed to be about. The director of the film, Gareth Edwards, said that Rogue One, quote, will revolve around a rogue band of resistance fighters who unite for a daring mission to steal the Death Star plans and bring a new hope to the galaxy, unquote. The film is going to take place in the years between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, so Star Wars Episode 3 and 4. So wait, a rogue band of resistance fighters who unite for a daring mission to steal the Death Star plans? It's fucking tagging big!
I remember playing a Star Wars game, I think on the 64? One Nintendo system where it was a tale of how they got those plans. And it was starring some friend of Han Solo.
Tag. Okay, we'll go with tag.
No.
Disney's value has bumped up as a result of the Star Wars celebration a couple weekends ago. Just due to the release of the trailer for Star Wars Episode 7, Disney stock took a $2 billion jump.
Damn.
According to CBS's Money Watch, quote, the first installment of George Lucas's galactic soap opera has grossed more than $1.1 billion in inflation-adjusted terms, according to Box Office Mojo. Analysts expect history to repeat itself when the latest installment in the franchise, Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, is released in December. Keith Simanton, the managing editor of IMDb.com, expects the film to gross $225 million during its opening weekend, breaking a record held since 2012 by Marvel's The Avengers. He estimates it will earn $1.8 billion altogether, the biggest total in history behind Avatar and Titanic. Ray Supers at Box Office Mojo isn't quite as bullish, expecting $125 million to $150 million opening weekend and a total gross of $1.2 billion to $1.4 billion. I haven't heard the buzz that I've heard for The Force Awakens for a very long time, Simanton said in an interview, unquote. I wouldn't put it past Star Wars fans to just go see this 8 times and force that money to go into Disney's coffers. Their fans are not just fans, they're fanatics. We've seen some of them at work. This really kind of tickled my funny bone regarding the Star Wars celebration. Somebody was wandering around in a clone trooper helmet. Took a lot of videos, took a lot of photos, played around with fans a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody should have really checked that helmet. Underneath that helmet was John Boyega. Anybody know that name?
No.
Mm-hmm.
He is the African-American actor playing Finn, the Stormtrooper in Star Wars. He was all over the place during the celebration. This is on the level of Bryan Cranston wearing a Bryan Cranston mask walking around Comic-Con, okay? V.
Hmm?
I have a list here from IO9 and one of their contributors, Meyer, who says he has the 10 best Star Trek episode endings.
Oh, this ought to be good.
Yeah, you're gonna be my measuring stick here because you've seen more of this than I have, obviously. First one on this list is from The Next Generation. The episode is All Good Things.
Yeah, that's a good ending.
Quote, 5-card stud, nothing wild and the sky's the limit, unquote. No great battle, no major character death, nothing epic, just Picard finally joining the crew for their poker game, showing the bond of these characters. The perfect capper to the 7-year voyage and remains one of the greatest finales in television history, unquote.
Yeah.
I can agree with that assessment. Yeah.
Okay. Item number 2 from Deep Space Nine. The episode is In the Pale Moonlight.
Oh.
I don't remember that one right off the top of my head.
Okay, I remember this now.
It.
This was a rough episode. Quote, after admitting to how he's bribed, blackmailed, forged, threatened, and become an accessory to murder, all to trick the Romulans into entering the war against the Dominion, Sisko finishes by saying, the worst part of it all is, I think I can live with it. And then he deletes his log, ending what may be the best DS9 episode and how dark Sisko can get, unquote.
Yeah.
I did not see that one, but yeah.
It's good.
I recall that one.
The whole episode, he was the narrative device. He was doing a log about his mission to get the Romulans to join the entirety of it, and at the end, he decides that it was worth doing what he was doing, and he deleted his log. So there was no official record about how he got the Romulans into the war, which did include a lot of dirty tactics.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of those episodes where I'm sure everybody's going to agree. From The Next Generation, part 1 of the best of both worlds.
Yes. Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
You guys don't remember real soon. Quote, a newly Borg Picard demanding surrender. Riker intoning for Worf to fire a weapon to destroy his own captain. The best Trek cliffhanger ever, making fans go crazy in 1990, wondering how the hell they were ever going to get out of this one. Unquote.
You're all going to scream at me, but I've never seen that episode. I've seen before and after. I have never seen that episode.
I remember that you haven't seen this, but I thought you would have fixed this by now.
That 2-episode arc was probably the most solid writing of the entire series.
Of that season, yeah. I agree.
Of the entirety of like the 7-year run of The Next Generation, that 2 episodes, even if you've seen it before, there are certain parts that just make your skin crawl.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah. Number 4 on this list of the 10 best Star Trek episode endings is from the original series.
City on the Edge of Forever?
No, let me just read the synopsis because I'm sure you'll get there. Quote, getting more lighthearted here, the capper to this classic episode has Scotty revealing just what he did with all the tribbles.
Oh, yes.
The trouble with tribbles, yes.
Wonderful from Uhura's opening laugh to Spock's light eye rolling and a reminder why this episode is such a classic, unquote.
God, this is one of my favorite episodes of all time.
Okay, for number 5, we actually have to bounce back to Deep Space Nine. The episode title is A Call to Arms. Quote, fleeing Deep Space Nine, Sisko leaves a little reminder to Gul Dukat to say he'll be back.
Yeah.
I've seen this one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we see the most impressive Starfleet armada ever setting up the war to come, unquote.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Deep Space Nine was like my favorite of the Star Trek series, because there was some stuff Sisko did that just gave you fucking chills. When he abandoned his office, cleaned out everything,
and left his baseball.
That prized baseball that just says, I'm coming for this thing, you bitch.
Yeah. I like that Dukat didn't, throw it away or anything.
He didn't throw it away, he didn't disintegrate it. He made a stand for it and put it on his desk. He said to say, come get it, motherfucker.
Also, Dukat is one of the best TV villains of all time.
Oh, absolutely. He was likable and hateable at the same time. He had this weird dichotomy about him.
Yeah.
Wei Yun was up there, too, in my opinion.
Yeah, but Wei Yun was more of a mincer.
Yeah, he was definitely the
mouthpiece.
Yeah.
He wasn't the villain. He was just the scary voice behind the villains.
Yeah, that's true.
I kind of wish I had a brain running when I was watching shows at that time, because even recently, even now, I watch a show, I kind of just shut down, turn to a potato.
It's possible to change yourself to not do that. I mean, yeah, it takes effort, but...
Yeah.
Well, there it is the problem. It takes effort.
Exactly.
Episode number 6 on this list is from Voyager. The episode is titled Pathfinder. I remember.
Is this the Beyond Warp 10 episode?
No.
This is even better. Quote, at long last, the ship makes contact with Starfleet Command, and Paris gets a message from his dad. It's all thanks to Barclay, who in a wonderful finish is made an honorary member of Voyager. A great finish to a key turning point of the series, unquote. That's when they started regularly developing contact with Starfleet from the Delta Quadrant.
Yeah.
You know, they have mail call.
Yep.
The next episode on this list, item number 7, is from a lot of lists of the greatest episodes of Star Trek, let alone the greatest from the Next Generation. The title of the episode is The Inner Light.
Oh, yeah.
Quote, after experiencing an entire lifetime on an alien planet thanks to Picard somberly reflects on the life he had. That last bit of him with the flute makes it criminal Patrick Stewart never received an Emmy nomination.
Yeah, I do remember that one.
I'm literally tearing up just thinking about it.
I know, he left an entire family behind in his mind, I guess you could say, and he has to live with that forever.
Mm-hmm.
That's horrible.
Horrible
the fact
and
that
wonderful
they were all
at the same
dead
time.
before he ever actually even had them. And
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was wow.
Well, the last 3 items on this list from IO9 of the 10 best Star Trek episode endings, I have not seen any of them. V already guessed number 8 from the original series, The City on the Edge of Forever.
That is one of, yes. Oh my god, that is such a... Oh.
She is curling up here.
Yes, I love that episode. So good.
Quote, after giving up the woman he loved in order to set history right and returning to the future, Kirk's reaction is the only thing he can say and showed the depths William Shatner could bring when he had to, unquote. I've never seen the episode. I'm not an original series fan.
This is an episode you should watch. This, even if you watch no other episodes other than Trouble with Tribbles, you should watch that one.
Okay. Item number 9, I'm sure I've never seen, is because it comes from the series of Enterprise.
Yeah,
the episode
that season.
Yeah, the episode title is In a Mirror Darkly.
Oh, that's really, really, yes. It's the best of the Mirror Universe episodes.
You're just not going to bring up any episode that she has not seen.
No, it's not possible. I've literally seen every episode.
Quote, in what's generally regarded as the best episode of the series, set in the Mirror Universe, Archer and a small team get onto the time-lost Defiant, only to watch as the Enterprise itself is crushed inside of a fabled Tholian web. A terrific twist that lets you know this 2-parter is going to be more awesome than the rest of the series, unquote.
And it is.
The Defiant? They actually boarded the Defiant in that series?
Yes, they did.
Huh. Okay, that makes me mildly curious all of a sudden. The last in this list of the 10 best Star Trek endings, according to the observation deck in IO9, is from the series of Voyager. The episode title is Endgame.
Oh, that's the final episode.
Yep.
Quote, the ending 7 seasons in the making. After managing to take out a Borg cube, Voyager finally makes its way back to Earth. The crew overwhelmed by the journey finally over. The sight of the ship being led with others is a wonderful last shot to the series. Cutting this down to just 10 was absolutely killer, but sure, many more that can qualify. Hope you enjoyed this and share it if you want, unquote.
I do think Endgame had a good... that was a good ending to the episode. I don't know.
It lacked a series finisher. I have seen that the few episodes towards the end of the series.
Yeah, it lacked as a series finisher, but the ending itself, I agree, was good. But
yeah, I checked back.
I think it did a good job of proving how, out of all the captains, I think, other than Sisko, Janeway was the most morally gray.
Yes.
Yeah. Well...
I actually think she's more morally gray than Sisko is. She had less chance to do backstabby politicking things is the only thing.
I would argue that Sisko is probably more morally gray because he had the easier decisions to make, but he still took the hardest fucking routes I've ever seen in my life. It's not like any move he made was just life and death like it was on Voyager. That was more of a survivalist tale.
Yeah, that's true.
I will say, when it came to Voyager, somewhere around Season 3 or Season 4, I checked completely out, but I did check in during the last 6 episodes of the series, so I did actually witness that.
Voyager was actually my favorite of the series, but not by a huge margin, because I like them all a lot, but...
Yeah, Deep Space Nine was still mine, man. They had their backs against the wall in so many shitty situations just because they were on the edge of in territory.
Those first couple
I
seasons
think the only one of the new generations I've seen in its entirety is the Next Generation. I watched some of DS9, didn't watch others of it, got back in towards the end of it. Voyager, I checked in and out on. Enterprise, I never even bothered with.
Well, how could you even escape the TNG? They were syndicated on so many freaking channels up until like 2000.
Right?
Yeah. It was one of the few shows that my sister and I could agree to watch without trying to like kill each other.
I don't know. I like DS9, but I know I barely watch maybe half the episodes. Voyager, I watch probably 90% of it.
DS9 started off weak because they had no ships other than runabouts, which couldn't carry more than like 5 people before becoming crowded.
Well,
Yeah,
no, it
and they didn't
off-
have as much of a direction either.
Yeah, they started off trying to do like the science-y kind of.
They started off trying to do frontierism.
Yeah, feature of the week kind of thing, and that just didn't work for them.
Yeah. When they brought in Worf, that was when shit started getting real.
Yeah. I never liked Worf in TNG, and I didn't like him in DS9 either, but I liked him better in DS9.
I thought just the addition of the Defiant changed the series. They had an actual ship to play around with.
And what a ship.
Yeah, really. A fucking gunboat. I do have one story from IO9. They supposedly went over some footage that was aired from James Bond's Spectre film upcoming with Daniel Craig.
Mm-hmm.
It's a synopsis of what happened, and it sounds like the basis of the clip they saw was that Bond is trying to carry out the last wishes of the previous M who died in Skyfall, and he needs Moneypenny's help for it.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I could read you the entire synopsis. It's about 4 or 5 paragraphs long, but all it is just a lot of characters set up. You know, Bond has a new apartment now that his family home has been destroyed. It's very Spartan. He hasn't put up anything. He's just kind of sitting in an empty room with boxes and drinking. You know, Moneypenny comes in and is trying to, take him back to work. And, of course, they have the weird sexual tension that every Bond and Moneypenny has in fucking history.
Of course.
But let me see. It says here in one paragraph, quote, "He turns on the television. It's M. No, she's not back. This is her In Case I Die video recording that I assume all amazing spies make in case of their early demise. She tells Bond that if she does die, he needs to find a man named Marco and kill him. Oh, and don't miss the funeral." I assume she means her. Moneypenny asks when M's funeral is. Bond replies in 3 days, so it sounds like Spectre is taking place just days after Skyfall.
Wow.
Bond insinuates that he's going to pursue M's last request that he needs Moneypenny to be a mole for him. She's not happy, but she's clearly going to do it, in spite of her respect for the new M, played by Ray Fiennes. She asks Bond, "What makes you think you can trust me?" Bond does that thing that only James Bond can get away with and stands inches away from Moneypenny's face. "Instinct," he responds, unquote. You know what? The last few Bond films with Daniel Craig, I've enjoyed the shit out of them.
Me too.
You know, I saw the first one, haven't seen any of the others.
Yes, you have. I fell asleep when you were watching the one I brought over. It was the follow-up to Casino Royale.
No, that's true. No, it's just the third one that I haven't seen.
Quantum of Solace, I can't really remember, but Skyfall was great.
The thing is, what I've noticed is all 4 of these movies are linked.
They should.
James Bond films tend to be episodic. You know, what happens in one rarely carries over to the next. But all the Daniel Craig films, you line them up in a row, and it's almost like this is one shitty week in his fucking life.
I appreciate that. Like, I've always liked Bond, and I have accepted that it's episodic in nature, but I like the continuity more.
I wish I, stuck around for it, because I kind of checked out when Daniel Craig made the first Bond film. These things like just same old James Bond crap I've seen in all the other movies. So.
Oh, it's not the same old, man. This James Bond doesn't rely much on technology. He's more of a straightforward ass-kicking machine.
On the other hand, it's kind of disappointing to not see more Bond stuff.
Well, last bit of general media news I have is one that's going to make all of us fucking happy. All of us.
Oh?
Oh, yeah. It's been announced that Paramount is working on a Galaxy Quest TV series.
I have not seen that movie.
V, I think, understands what this is about.
Yeah, I've seen the movie, but...
Yeah, Galaxy Quest is basically a takeoff on Star Trek. What if all the actors were actually stuck in a sci-fi space adventure?
Yeah.
They're making a TV series out of this movie.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
I like the idea, man, because I thought that movie, when it finished, it had untapped potential for, like, a number of sequels. The only question I've got is, can you find somebody that's going to be as filled with gravitas and just plain vitriol as Alan Rickman?
I was going to say Tim Allen is going to actually kind of be hard to replace.
Tim Allen, I think, would be much easier to replicate. I think Alan Rickman would be the hard one.
Yeah, you're right. Alan Rickman would be harder.
Yeah.
But they might be able to get Alan Rickman is the thing.
Possibly. I wouldn't say that he'd do it because he was bored. I'd say he'd do it just because he'd say, whatever. From there, we'll move into the Marvel comic news. That's where we talk about the Marvel comic book projects and some of the stuff that ignites our passion for everything else that comes around it. There is an 800-pound gorilla in the room when it comes to Marvel comic news, and it was announced this week that it turns out one of the original 5 X-Men is gay.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which one?
Iceman.
Yeah, that's surprising, actually.
Not... Yeah, but...
It's an amazing retcon after 50-some-odd years of continuity. Well, actually closer to 70 now.
Well, I can't really say it's a retcon. It depends on how they treat it, I suppose, but, I mean...
Well, I mean, it is a retcon because you are changing the continuity of the character after an established history. That is the definition of a retcon. I'm not saying it's a bad retcon. It's an interesting one, actually.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't necessarily have to overwrite his history. It just changes what they're going to do with him in the future.
Yeah. Well, it creates an interesting paradigm because, after all, the origin... The Iceman we're talking about is one from All New X-Men, the teenage one that's left forward in time several decades. And arguably, the time where this kid came from, not exactly cool to be gay. You know, this was back when they still sent you through, like, prayer groups and shit to try and fix all that.
Yeah.
It was an interesting revelation in All New X-Men 40. He was catcalling one of his professors, Professor Magic, which is arguably putting your life in your own hands. And then young Jean Grey dragged him aside and was admonishing him for it, but she caught some surface thoughts, and it turns out he's not even bisexual. He is just gay. He's covering up for his insecurities. Which does explain why this character has never in Marvel history had a very good relationship.
Yeah.
It's never gone well for him. I like the character change. The only question it leads me to ask is, on the cover of X-Men #1, I really hope that when he's throwing snowballs at Magneto, they're just snowballs.
Boo.
Fuck you. I tried.
What? Snowballs?
Yeah, Iceman in his original form, he was just covered with snow, and his main weapon was he would throw snowballs at people. So I'm hoping those white snowballs are actually just snowballs.
Ew.
Unfortunately, though, this has caused some consternation, including an evangelist called Franklin Graham, who has come out.
Of course.
He's the son and successor of Christian minister Billy Graham. And he says that Marvel's outing of Iceman is part of a larger effort to indoctrinate young people.
Yeah, the description of religion.
Yeah. Well, he actually put out on his Facebook page this past Wednesday, quote, "Today the Marvel comic character Iceman from the X-Men series is coming out as gay. This is another attempt to indoctrinate our young people to accept this destructive lifestyle. God's word says homosexuality is a sin, and we are to be on guard against all sin. God calls us to repent, turn from our sins, and put our trust in his son Jesus Christ, who died and rose again to pay the penalty for sin," unquote.
He's the reason why I don't go to church anymore.
Gosh. I don't even know where to go, because the whole concept of what he said is as much of a joke as anything I could come up with.
No, the moment you said that, I had no words. The best I could tell you is my eyes rolled in the back of my head saying, really?
It's just, of all the things that are really issues out there in the world that Christianity should be arguing about, whether or not Iceman is gay is very low on that fucking list.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel did announce that the last issue of the Hawkeye series has been delayed.
Because
the last issue of David Aja, Matt Fraction's Hawkeye, number 22, has been pushed back a few times, and this time the date is now June 10th, which would put it just ahead of the Secret Wars, if I'm correct. There's no word as to why this is occurring, but this is the second or third delay for this particular issue. I don't know why they're delaying it like this. It's a popular series. Unless you're trying to drive up the price of this particular issue. Last bit of Marvel comic news I have is one that's gonna... It tires me just talking about it. It was really close to making it into the WTF corner. Marvel and Iron Man are being sued over costume design.
What?
Okay.
According to the Hollywood Reporter, there's a comic artist named Ben and Ray Lai. They sound like brothers. They brought a lawsuit against Marvel Entertainment over the design of Iron Man in movies. Now, these brothers are alleging copyright infringement and unfair business practices over similarities between their 2001 comic series Radix, published by Image, and the Iron Man suits from the Iron Man films. Wow. According to the statement... I'm sorry. The duo's claim is that the Radix series featured characters who wear, quote, highly detailed mechanized suits of body armor, unquote, that was unique to its comic. Body armor is not unique to a comic in 2001. Especially since Iron Man, the man that created a suit of armor out of junk, was back in 1960-something?
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, it goes on here in the statement that says, quote, it was not until after the Lie brothers submitted their work on Radix to Marvel that Marvel began depicting Iron Man wearing the suits. The suits are substantially similar to the armor depicted in the Radix materials years earlier. Neither the Lie brothers nor plaintiff authorized any of the defendants to exploit the Radix materials in these or other ways. Unquote. The lawsuit goes on to say that Iron Man... Previously to their submission, Iron Man was featured wearing, quote, simple spandex-like attire and minimal armor, unquote.
They're not
wrong. Are you
wrong.
fucking kidding me? No, they are wrong. Iron Man's never worn spandex.
No,
just
but
because
it's been depicted, it's been drawn as such. Is probably
it's not drawn as such, it was just drawn sleeker. You know, Iron Man had a very minimalist design, which is true, but that doesn't mean that he was wearing spandex. They were just armors. What works in, and we've had this discussion, what works in a movie doesn't necessarily work on the comic book page and vice versa. And would you like to see the image that they claim is a direct ripoff of their stuff?
Yes.
I might be looking at it already.
Okay, there it is.
Yep.
Personally, I think they're reaching.
The pose, I suppose. But
I see it in the pose, but
the pose has been...
done so many
times.
The
pose is nothing new. I mean, Wolverine gets in that like every time he's on a cover.
Yeah.
You know, there's
only so many ways to design body armor.
Yeah.
There's some vague similarities in the armor, but not enough, I think, to float this lawsuit. This just looks like a couple of guys trying to cash in on a coincidence.
Yep.
You know, especially since they sued over Iron Man 3 in that particular image, yet that's the pose that Iron Man ends up in all three films. You know what I mean? Always with a fist on the ground, on one knee, and all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
So this is reaching to me like really bad.
No, totally agree.
Yep.
So I usually we wish people well in these circumstances. Fuck these guys. Okay, from there we'll move into DC comic news. We'll talk about the DC comic news that is interesting and maybe actually change things to the point where Marvel isn't dominating the fucking sales charts for a bit. First up in DC comic news was the announcement that DC is creating a female-focused superhero line just for young girls.
Yep, seen that.
They're calling it.
Yeah.
They're calling it
Mattel for it.
They're calling it DC Superhero Girls. It's a partnership between DC, Warner Brothers, and Mattel. They're going to reimagine a cast of female superheroes and villains as young girls getting to grips with their identities and powers.
All right, that latter part of that description bothers me.
It's one of those things where I see the need for it. DC Comics, we've discussed, and Chris Hare, the War Cabinet, has brought up a couple times that DC's history with female characters is bleak. They're the ones that when it came to Barbara Gordon getting shot said, cripple the bitch. They're the ones that wrote in that, Kyle Rayner's girlfriend was dismembered and put in a fridge waiting for him. I like the idea that they're aiming a comic book series at young girls. However, if you're going to do that, couldn't they create some original characters instead of de-aging several of their existing properties?
I just...
No, give it your thought, V, because I'll expand on that.
I'm feeling like marketing to girls and marketing to boys is just such a fallacy to begin with. Like, I think that if someone is interested in superheroes and in that stuff to begin with, it's not... You don't have to make an all-superhero team to appeal to girls, or at least that would be the opposite of what I would want. Literally the opposite.
I totally agree with that sentiment. It should just be made for readers, of a certain intelligence level, I would hope. But it's the cover that they produced as part of this ad has younger versions of Supergirl, Wonder Woman, Bumblebee, Batgirl, Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, and Katana. If you're going to make a series in this vein, why de-age existing heroes? Because this leaves no chance for young girls who buy these things to become interested in the regular series these characters are based on. They're completely different.
Yeah.
If you're going to make something like this, why not make a series with 7 or 8 original heroes trying to discover both their abilities and trying to grow up?
Yeah. I like this.
Make something that your audience can grow with.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, all you're doing is coming up with a new reason to sell Mattel toys, and,
Imagine that.
I don't like it. That's all.
Well, we'll see.
This could have been
2016.
Yeah, this could have been a great original concept, but all they did was rehash some of the few notable female characters they have. It was also announced, this was probably the biggest piece of DC comic news all week, frankly. Frank Miller is working on another sequel to The Dark Knight Returns.
Really?
Really?
Yes, that bleak futuristic one where he's fighting Superman. It's the basis for the Batman v Superman film.
Mm-hmm.
He's developing The Dark Knight 3, The Master Race. He announced it as part of the C2E2 convention that happened this weekend, the Chicago Comic Expo. Miller is going to be joined by writer Brian Azzarello, who worked on 100 Bullets, Joker, and Wonder Woman. Oh, he worked on that Joker hardcover we liked, the one-shot.
Oh.
It's going to be an 8-issue comic. It's going to be published twice a month under the DC Comics imprint. And it's going to be on the 30th anniversary of The Dark Knight Returns original series.
Nice.
This is scheduled to come out in fall of this year. I wasn't wild about The Dark Knight Returns, but it could have just been a little dated. I will check this out because this sounds like an awesome sequel, frankly. I wonder if it'll still have the Carrie Kelly Robin in it, actually.
I thought she was forced to quit in the second book.
I don't recall. I'd never read the second book.
Yeah, me either.
The last bit of DC comic news I have is that in June, DC Comics is coming out with a new version of Professor Zoom, the Flash Nemesis, a.k.a. the Reverse Flash.
Uh-huh.
They're bringing a new version to the DC Comics universe, and according to a statement, he's bringing other new rogues with him. Some actual new Flash villains are coming. This storyline is going to start in June's Flash 41. Professor Zoom and a mysterious origin and new costume by series artist Brett Booth, and the writers say the story are going to explore Barry Allen through a slightly different lens. The Professor Zoom is forming a new Flash hunting party, a group of villains gathered by Zoom, some new, some reimagined, and they have a really specific reason for being with Zoom and why they're after the Flash. Considering the ratings the TV show is getting, this is a good time to introduce this.
Yeah.
I wouldn't look for many tie-ins to the TV show, though. The continuities are just way too different.
Well, they allude to the idea in the show that there are other people from the future that are in their timeline, other than Henry Wells.
I didn't catch that. Where'd you get that from?
A couple episodes back. I'm not sure. They may mention like this guy has his powers before the accident. So it's like, So that was the allusion to he had powers prior.
I didn't think that was the allusion to that. I thought that was the allusion to all the time travel nonsense that Eobard Thawne had done during his cover-up as Harrison Wells.
I'm lost.
I had never picked up that there was another time travel in the series, just that there was one that was very active.
Well, all I know is they allude to someone having metahuman powers prior to the incident with Star Labs.
Oh yeah, Eobard Thawne did. Remember, he's the one who
someone else. Someone else.
It. Yeah.
Yeah, not Eobard Thawne. They alluded to someone else.
Okay. We'll move from there into the general comic book and convention news. We'll talk about some comic book properties that are not Marvel and DC, as well as talk about some of the things we find out going on in the convention cycle. Comic-Con is quickly approaching. There's already people remarking that, amazingly, it's under, I think, 75 days until their doors open, which means that there is a group of nerds salivating hungrily and a bunch of others that would kill us for how we got into the convention. And for the first time ever this year, The Walking Dead Escape is bringing a version of their Walker Stalker Fan Fest to Comic-Con with them. And there's already a contest going around to win a 2-day pass to Walker Stalker Fest. This is a $110 value for these 2 tickets. It may not sound like a big deal, but Walker Stalker Fan Fest is actually going on at Petco Park, where The Walking Dead Escape is going on, and it's been announced that the entirety of the park is being taken over by 3 entities. The Walking Dead Escape, the obstacle course. Walker Stalker Fan Fest, the little fan celebration regarding the Walker Stalker and Zombie Convention. And The Nerdist is taking over the other part of Petco Park. The Nerdist is the company and podcast chain that's run by Chad Hardwick.
Mm-hmm.
He's also the guy that does the Talking Dead and a lot of the recap shows for AMC on their original series. So it sounds like a lot of stuff is going to be going on. Walker Stalker Fan Fest is using the right field side of the park for them in The Walking Dead Escape, which will be shorter than in previous years, but more immersive in the world of The Walking Dead. Oh, of course, I'm not doing it the year shorter. Fuck these people, man. Nerdist Industries is going to be making use of Petco Park's main concourse along left field and the third base sideline sections. Okay, that has me curious as to what the hell they're talking about. And according to SDCCblog.com, there is a countdown going on, and Comic-Con starts in 72 days and 22 hours. I can't wait to see all you guys. That's going to be so great.
It is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. As far as Comic-Con exclusives go, NECA has announced one of theirs. They're coming out with an Ambush Predator exclusive. It's a new action figure that's made out of clear acrylic for the most part. Make it look like the Predator is decloaking, I guess, and getting ready to cut your head off with giant blades. It's interesting, but at the same time, it's a little bit bizarre. I sent you guys the link so you could take a look at it. It's an interesting Predator figure, but there's something about the way the paint around the eyes. It looks like there's ants crawling around the head of this thing. I see some pretentious assholes driving an expensive car.
That looks cool. Does it glow?
It's okay.
I mean, like...
I don't think so. According to this, it's going to come with 2 different removable masks, both vacuum metal and fully painted, as well as 2 large removable battle blades and a removable backpack. Doesn't say anything about a light. A light would help this thing, frankly. Also, in regards to Comic-Con, I haven't read the last couple of lists of guests. However, this one had a couple names that caught my eye. Also coming to Comic-Con, and they're going to have special spotlight panels, is Tony Harris, the artist of Starman and Ex Machina. Jeff Smith, who's a cartoonist on Bone, RASL, and Tukey Save the Humans. Maggie Thompson, who's a writer, editor, and comics historian. Also announced was Scotty Young. He's the guy that does all of the kids' comic books for Marvel lately, like Avengers Kids versus X Kids. He also does Rocket Raccoon and I Hate Fairyland. This is the one that caught my eye superbly, though. Greg Capullo is coming to Comic-Con. He's been an artist on The Creech for Image, Spawn for Image, and Batman. Now, if there's a guy that's going to have a long line of people for signatures, that's Greg Capullo.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be hard to get to. It's also been announced as far as Comic-Con exclusives, there will be a Hasbro Star Wars The Force Awakens exclusive that's coming out for Comic-Con. But they haven't said what it is yet. There was a Q&A with the Senior Global Marketing Manager of Hasbro. His name was Joe Ninivagi. And the Q&A actually pinned him down pretty well. They asked him how come no exclusives were out for for the Star Wars Celebration in Anaheim, and he said, quote, "Yeah, next time we definitely will. We're going to have an exclusive at San Diego for sure. It's just the time, what we can do and what we can't do, what we can and can't show. We're really ramping up for the fall. We just opted not to, but I think in the future we will for sure." And then the questioner asked him about the San Diego exclusives, and he says, quote, "I don't know yet. I'm not sure. We're still working on what our reveal plans will be, but stay tuned and it will be out soon. San Diego is just around the corner." Unquote. The questioner asked for a preview, and he said, quote, "I wish I could. Just stay tuned. Comic-Con, we're going to have some nice stuff to show, and then just get ready, guys. Fall is going to be out of control. It's really going to be awesome," unquote.
Cool.
So, they apparently... Ninvagi was asked on an episode of Galaxy of Toys, episode 42, quote, "Do you think all non-Force Awakens toys are going to be on hold till 2016? And his answer was, no. Another question I asked was, where do we need to go to see the Force Awakens toys? Because first it was hinted at New York Comic-Con in October would be the place to go see the new toys from the movie, but this time they told us it looks like it's going to be San Diego, unquote.
Ooh.
So there it is. The first Force Awakens toys are coming in just a few months at San Diego. And if that didn't make it hard to get into Hasbro's booth before, that just made it terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As far as Comic-Con's sister convention, WonderCon, they've announced what dates they're going to be in the Los Angeles Convention Center next year. So anybody with an interest in large comic book conventions, mark your calendars for March 25th to 27th. Is that when Easter happens next year?
I have no idea.
I have no idea. Since they don't actually do it on Easter and they do spring break now, it's kind of hard to tell.
Oh, hang on. That is Easter weekend next year.
So what days?
March 25th through 27th. 3-day weekend, Los Angeles Convention Center, WonderCon 2016. You're writing that down, aren't you?
I'm checking...
He's checking it against his Brony convention.
Yep. Is it May or...
March.
March. Oh,
March 25th through 27th.
Oh, that's, okay, that's full month, before. So,
Oh, wow, we might actually get to see most of us down there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that means we will have to slog through Los Angeles again. But that means we get to stay at the Residence Inn again.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Más o menos.
Is that
Maybe
the
we'll
one you
get a
guys
bit-
did for the...
For Kamikaze.
Oh, excellent. So that means I'll be able to see it even though I can't go to Kamikaze this year.
Yeah, actually, this leads to a question, though, because this will lead us to find out whether or not the SPJ's negotiating skills when it comes to hotel prices are any good. Imagine what it'd be like if WonderCon goes there and instantly the price drops like $30 per night. That would tell us a lot. There have been... We've talked before about unlikely comic book crossovers. You know, Archie versus Predator is high on that list.
Yeah.
Archie and the Punisher is also high on that list. Just about anything involving Archie and surviving is frankly weird. This, I don't even know how to categorize it. The Xenomorphs from Aliens are getting a crossover with Vampirella.
I'm scared.
Okay.
It was announced this weekend as C2E2, Dynamite Entertainment, and Dark Horse are joining forces to create a miniseries crossover as Vampirella does battle with the alien hordes. This mean we get to see vampire aliens?
That's what I'm afraid of.
I'm just sitting there going, well, you can't drink their blood.
Well, it's going to be penned by Star Wars Legacy scribe Karina Bechko.
I don't know, Steve. I think she might classify it as spicy.
According to the synopsis they released, quote, "I've loved Aliens since I first saw it as a kid and on a crummy old TV in a well-lit room and got scared half to death anyway. Now that I have the chance to add a little corner to that universe, I couldn't be happier. And pitting such an implacable horror against Vampirella, that's a meeting that definitely produces a very fertile storytelling ground. The Alien franchise has always thrived with strong women in the lead. Smart, self-assured Vampirella is a joy to write for, even when she may have met her match," unquote. That's weird, but believe it or not, that's not the only news about Vampirella and strange crossovers.
Oh boy.
There's going to be a miniseries where Vampirella is, where I think Dark Horse and First Comics are teaming up, where Vampirella is going to shop at S-Mart.
Oh, really?
Vampirella Army of Darkness #1 is going to be the first in a 4-issue miniseries that puts Ash Williams, the Bruce Campbell played hero from the Army of Darkness series, against Vampirella. You know, it would just make my day if near the beginning of this series, the first time they meet, he looks at her, draws a shotgun, and all he says is, "Hey, she-bitch, let's go." Oh, I'm gonna like... I gotta pick this up just for the fun factor. Last bit of general comic news I have. IDW seems very determined to kill childhoods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a horrible way. I mean, they're taking some serious risks with long-term tropes of some of the stuff they've got. They're trying something new, and I applaud that. The fact that they killed Donatello in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics was a big fucking step.
Is that official now?
It appears to be. They haven't brought him back as of yet. Now, that isn't to say there couldn't be a comic book resurrection, but again, a series with such a narrow group of heroes, that's a big risk. IDW took a similar risk just last week. They had a G.I. Joe story arc that's called The Death of Snake Eyes.
Yep.
That's kind of blunt.
Yeah, and apparently in the latest issue, G.I. Joe Real American Hero 213, that's exactly what they did. Snake Eyes tackled Serpentor over a rail and popped the pin on a grenade that he held on to.
We're going out together.
Yeah, and it all went boom. The only unfortunate thing about that is that's a bit too like 80s movie type of an ending where it's too perfect. There's no body to recover.
Yeah.
Goodness only knows what exactly happened there. For all you know, he shoved it clean up his ass and jumped away before the explosion. So, goodness only knows how this is going to turn out. But again, I credit IDW for taking some serious risks with its properties. Of course, it's probably making Hasbro go, "Why are you doing this? We sell stuff!" We'll move from there directly into the anime and Japan news. A lot of us like anime and cartoons to different degrees, so we will talk about what comes across the Pacific Ocean. Something I've never heard of before. I have been a Japanese cultural fan for a while. I did not know that for a while there were Japanese candy animals sold by ninjas.
Huh?
They what now?
Okay, let's slow this down a bit. There's a craft people at a company called Amazaiku Yoshihara. They make intricate candy creatures by hand as you watch. I've seen one of these guys work at Anime Expo. Okay, he was a special guest. One of their people was a special guest at one point. And it's interesting. They do spend time with the sugary syrups, and they put them in squirt bottles on sticks, and as they harden, they create lines, and they make little animals out of it. This store opened in 2008, and it's a permanent shop devoted to this craft of making candy animals. To do this, the owner had to apprentice with a master for 2 years and work by himself for 4 years before even going into business.
Dedication.
Now, legend has it that Amezaiku, or these candy animals, go back to the 8th century and began as a temple offering. Other stories tell of ninjas disguising themselves as candy craftsmen to steal methods and develop more intricate techniques.
Huh.
In other words, ninjas were doing industrial espionage on this art form. The candy was hollow, it was blown by mouth like glass until health regulations outlawed the method in the 1970s for hygienic reasons. Amezaiku Yoshiharu brought the craft into the 21st century in ways ninjas couldn't dream of, with a Facebook page, an online shop, and their own mascot, which is a white rabbit. Some of the images of what they make here, this is some impressive shit. Because I could not imagine how much patience this would take. Take a look at this. I would not mind buying a set of this and putting it on a shelf, except the ants would go crazy.
Oh, wow.
That's some nice detail.
I wouldn't want to eat it.
Right?
I know, I'd stare at it all the time.
Honestly,
of course, I have kids, so they'd be eaten.
I would think that the dragon with the spines coming off of it would actually be a little uncomfortable to suck on.
That's why you lick it sensuously, baby. Oh, yeah.
That would still be rather uncomfortable.
Well, we can talk about comfort, because the next story actually has to do with an anime-infused fashion line.
Oh, which anime this time?
Well, Clamp has joined forces with fashion brand Sukiyaki, and they're creating a fashion line based on one of their most popular anime series ever, I would say.
Card Captors.
Card Captors.
Exactly.
Yep, I knew it. As soon as you said Clamp, I was like, oh, I know what's coming.
I sent you a link to the actual fashion line they developed based on costumes from Card Captors Sakura. And some of these look relatively close to the costumes. I don't know if I would know many females that would actually dress up in these. I could imagine a lot of boyfriends buying their dresses for the girlfriends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and ladies, little hint. If your boyfriend comes at you with a box, with a dress, based on an anime where the heroine is a 10-year-old girl, fucking run.
Oh, come on. It's not like the cartoon itself didn't fucking go that direction.
Oh, I know the cartoon went that direction. That's a reason to run faster. The thing is, though, it's not like the dresses are inherently ugly or anything. Some of them are pretty interesting. It's just, it's a frightening prospect.
Well, they went heavily for the baby doll look. And I'm not a big fan of that.
Honestly, out of the entire line in the link I sent you, the first and the last ones are the most interesting to me.
The last one's interesting to me, not the first one.
The first one can be interpreted a number of different ways. It's just the first picture there makes it look like it's really uncomfortable. The last picture based on the first one looks more like a regular woman just wearing it and actually doing something with herself besides waiting for the photographer to snap his stupid photo.
Mm.
The roller skates in the first picture are also a little bit bizarre.
Yeah, I think that's why she looks so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Honestly, the last one, not as big a deal for me. I actually get the one right above it.
I wasn't as wild about that one. It looks like a bizarre Alice dress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it actually, I don't know, it looks more normal.
Believe it or not, that is not the only anime news that has to do with fashion this week. You ever heard of Tioke? Tioke?
Mm-mm. Not me.
No. Okay. Not by that
Tioke,
pronunciation, anyway.
Okay. Tioke makes shoes.
Oh, boy.
Okay, then I definitely haven't heard of them because I don't give a shit.
Okay. They make women's shoes. And I don't think I have to do much more than show you the picture for you to understand what series their new line of shoes is based on. Take a look.
Oh, I just see it in the name.
Yep.
Oh my.
Yep, now they have shoes to go with that the lingerie we saw almost a year ago.
Boy, you just said a nerd-stripping fantasy right there.
Yep.
They made a new line of shoes based on Sailor Moon characters. There's something about this that's entertaining, but a little bit horrifying.
Yeah, Sailor Moon is for, like, middle school girls, right?
Yes, middle school girls who get dressed up in sailor fukus when they chant and go naked for a couple seconds and fight monsters and women from another galaxy, I believe.
Who knows?
I don't know.
Some of these shoes, they're all high heels, but some of these aren't representative of the characters are supposed to indicate.
Let me put you this way, V. Even when I was a kid and anime was only known as an outcast thing, it was often described that Sailor Moon is extremely popular among young girls and very old men.
Yeah, no, that's very true.
So it's a very frightening prospect to me. If you can wear these, fine, but I don't plan on going shopping for any of these things. Tokai University in Tokyo recently held a class that seems like a very much pass or fail proposition. And for half the people that took it, I imagine all they needed to do to pass was show up. They've introduced a new class and lecture series based on Maho Shoujo Madoka Magica. Nothing?
I don't know. They hold classes nowadays in our universities on comic books and anime and so forth. So it doesn't surprise me that Japan's catching into this.
Yeah.
That wouldn't bother me as much, but for there to be a lecture series based on an animated series where 4 out of 5 of these magical girl heroines, none of which I think are out of elementary grades yet, are slaughtered.
It was a very dark series.
That's putting it lightly. The only thing that could have made it worse is if, while fighting, the last one suddenly looks up above a wall and a titan comes kicking it down and picks her up like a goddamn bonbon.
This is different from Lord of the... Well...
I was just going to say that it's honestly the little magical creature that grants them their powers is far more
evil,
disturbing than any fucking Titan out of Attack on Titans. What is it called? I can't even remember what the hell it's called now.
I never bothered.
Yeah, that thing is fucking evil incarnate.
Okay. Have you ever had a relationship where you just wanted to get back at somebody really, really, really badly?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not that I'd be willing to tell you about.
Just me and the internet, baby. Well, there was a Japanese woman who found out her boyfriend was cheating on her.
This will be good.
Oh, it's good. When she found out that he was cheating, she decided to take his collection and toss it in the bathtub.
What collection?
His Apple device collection.
Oh.
Oh. Hoo, hoo.
That's an expensive collection.
Yeah, now, bathtubs in Japan, you're not supposed to get into them unless you're already clean. They're more or less used to soak and rejuvenate.
Right.
She took a collection that included iPhones, iMacs, iPads of different generations and tossed them in the goddamn tub.
Oh.
You're purified, bitch.
Yeah, she even tossed an 899-pound, when I say pound, I mean British pound, iMac into the damn tub and took a picture.
Bombing for Apple.
Well,
you know what?
I don't feel that bad about this because this Apple stuff.
Okay, shots fired.
But
shots were not fired. She sank the fucking boat.
But
and there you are in the tub.
If I pretend that it's not Apple and they're just electronics, that's bad.
Well, do you want to see a picture of this carnage?
Sure.
Yes.
When people get their just desserts, certainly.
Take a look, man.
I want to know if he deserved this. Is what I want to know.
I don't know. This looks like about $4,000 worth of stuff.
On her, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, this looks like about $4,000 worth of stuff in the tub. Maybe 5, actually.
Bobbing for apples.
I know.
Bobbing for apples, nice.
And the thing is, though, that's not even the piece de resistance because she posted this too.
Uh-oh. Follow up.
Oh.
Is that the toilet? No,
that's
the bathtub.
Yeah.
That's a monitor.
Yeah.
That's not how you clean the screen, hon.
We're out of Windex.
You don't clean it with Windex either.
Well, Death Note is continuing its cross-media campaign here. We've seen that it's had in manga. We've seen that it's had in anime. We saw a clip from what looked like the rehearsal of the stage musical. Yeah. The illustrator of Death Note, Takeshi Obata, recently unveiled that they're working on a live-action TV drama based on Death Note now.
No thanks.
I like that idea better than I like the musical.
Yeah. Then again, I like most ideas better than musicals. Their songs are just so catchy, and they get stuck in my head.
This must have been
I like that.
I'm sorry. I've had one particular song stuck in my head for a couple of years now. It's driving me crazy.
Is it the one where my mother nearly ripped your ear off?
No.
I hope it's not Don't Fuck the Baby from the Book of Mormon.
I'm not familiar with that one, so no.
I'm not going to sing it here, no. Well, the announcement came via Obata's latest series, Gyaku Hotel. He added a little line in between panels that announced the Death Note TV series. This must have been a well-kept secret because apparently this TV drama is coming out in July. This July. No words on actors or any possible synopses. Last bit of anime in Japan news is a bit of a cultural return. After 20 years, a restaurant has returned to Japan. They've opened their first Tokyo outlet in 2 decades. And after this, I'm sure the Japanese are going to start dropping dead.
Oh.
Taco Bell is back.
Dun dun dun.
Okay, a little bit better than what I was going to say.
That's interesting.
A little bit.
They opened their first restaurant in 20 years in Tokyo Shibuya Ward today, as of April 21st. They've returned to the Japanese market ahead of the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, and this is the first time they've been in the country in 2 decades.
Yeah, because I was going to say, when I was there, they didn't even know what the hell Taco Bell was.
It ain't Mexican food.
I know, that's why I eat it. My question is, what's on the... We've seen what's in Japanese fast food chains. What do you think is on a Japanese Taco Bell's menu?
Nothing we've seen in America.
Yeah, probably not. I'm assuming some form of fish tacos, but of course we do actually have some of those in America. But yeah, it considering some of the other things that I've seen on
Something
menus
different.
from other well-known chains, it's going to be really different. I can't imagine what it's going to contain over there.
I don't know. The only hint I've gotten of a menu from the internet is that you can actually ask for something called taco rice.
Oh,
But that's gotta be awkward.
California actually kind of brings up
That's
a thing
a
too, because
California roll.
well, my thing is, taco is how they say squid. I believe is it squid or octopus?
Octopus. It's octopus. Which is my
So
point
you
was
can
going
get
to be
some really good
taco
plays
rice.
on words going with some of their menu items. So taco rice may not actually be taco corn shell and all that. That could actually be some kind of octopus rice.
Could you imagine the Who's on First skit that came? A lady comes up with a bowl, puts it down, and said, "Hey, I ordered taco rice." Oh yeah, that's taco rice. This isn't taco rice. I ordered taco rice. And we gave you taco rice. No, you gave me taco rice, not taco rice.
I'm confused.
You've never heard of that bit.
I guess not.
Taco is how the Japanese say octopus.
Oh, okay.
So if you go to Taco Bell and order taco rice, you might not get what you think you're getting.
People may be walking into there and not finding what they expect to find.
There may be some people walking into there just going, Taco Bell. I don't see an octopus on the wall, just a freaking bell. Where's the taco?
This is the second variation of that skit I've heard in the last 2 days.
My question is,
Get out
I can't remember what Taco Bell's current, ad, catchy phrase is, but I could just totally see, Taco Bell run for the border still going on over there, and people are going, what? How does that work?
We don't have borders. It's a fucking ocean.
And they're telling us to go to the sea.
Live Moss.
I thought it was Breakfast Defector.
That's their slogan.
I'm going to spend a while in the next couple of days trying to look up a Japanese Taco Bell menu just out of sheer curiosity. Maybe they have a shrimpless taco. No, wait, all taco is shrimpless. Never mind.
Well, at least they aren't still using the Taco Bell Chihuahua.
They probably ate it. Okay, from there we'll move into nerd interest news. Sometimes there's just those nerdy little articles that don't quite fit into comic books and entertainment, but they're still interesting. This kind of struck me sideways from IO9. It was an article by Esther Inglis Arkell. I'm sure all of us at some points have read children's books. They come illustrated with very interesting, wildly colored illustrations, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, I'm sure we've all also seen these types of mushrooms. They're in 90% of children's books if they're ever in a forest situation. They're those red cap mushrooms with the white speckles on them.
Mm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It turns out those are awful.
Yeah, those are really, really poisonous.
Yeah. And the inspiration for the mushrooms in Mario.
Well, they're not just toxic, they're also psychoactive.
Uh-huh.
They're called Amanita muscara, or fly agaric.
Yes. They're actually in Skyrim.
Yep.
No, the thing is, though, after finding out that these are psychoactive, suddenly a lot of children's books make a lot more sense.
Yeah.
It's just weird to think that these cute little mushrooms that you see in all these books might not just kill you, they might send you on an awesome trip.
Before you die.
Does that make Mario, a junkie, or something?
That doesn't make him a junkie. That just means he's high.
That explains why he gets bigger or taller.
He and Snoop Dogg would get along so well. That also explains why he ends up beating turtles to death all the time. It's staring at me, man! I take it you've also heard of the man that had serious problems with customer support recently?
Maybe.
There's a man from Colorado Springs who's facing some police action after he fired off a gun in his house.
Ooh.
He took his gun and shot it 8 times.
That's no good.
At his computer.
His computer.
Really?
Yes. According to a police spokesman, quote, he was having technology problems, so he took it to the back alley and destroyed it, unquote.
Okay.
The man's name was Lucas Hinch. He was briefly detained for discharging a firearm within the city of Colorado Springs.
And then released?
Yeah, he actually didn't realize he was breaking the law when he shot his PC.
Yeah, I didn't realize that's, I guess, discharging a thing within city limits. Yeah, okay.
According to the story, he'd been having problems with his computer for several months, and this was just the breaking point.
Literally.
Yeah, the paper said that he shot it when Control-Alt-Delete didn't consistently work on his machine.
Dude, that's when you go and have it looked at and get all that fucking... all those fucking viruses off your computer from looking at all that porn.
The newspaper, though, I have to give them credit for finishing up the story, because they said, quote, he was able to wreak the kind of revenge most of us only dream about. The computer is not expected to recover.
I don't know. I'm just picturing. What was that movie where they sat there and took the copier out and broke it all to hell?
Office Space, or
yeah, Office Space. I think it is. Yeah.
That's Office Space. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I'm good with a 5-pound sledge.
Well, V, this is a story you're going to like more than the rest of us.
Okay.
There is an astronaut named Samantha Cristoforetti. She's from the European Space Agency.
Okay.
She has pulled off the greatest Star Trek cosplay of all time.
Gimme.
I think I've seen this.
This should easily fall in the record books of the best Star Trek cosplay that has ever been.
Yep, seen this.
Oh, nice.
She was in a Star Trek The Next Generation uniform while standing in an observation deck on the International Space Station.
I dig it. Damn it, now I want to do this. I'm being kind of astronaut just to do cosplay on the ISS.
Okay, well, all you need is a costume. The rest of us will get some rubber bands together and just shoot you up into orbit. How about that?
But...
How long can you hold your breath?
Not that long.
And just be sure to take an awesome selfie before you pass out.
Oh, God.
In further astronomical news, holy shit, that was close. It's been found that Saturn's ice moon, Enceladus, is slowly being devoured by the planet's own rings.
Yeah.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
There's ghostly tendrils escaping the moon's cryovolcanoes and shooting off into space, which are being picked up by the gravitational pull of Saturn's own rings.
That's being picked up by the gravitational pull of Saturn. It's what's making the rings.
Yeah, Enceladus is only 310 miles across. It's a very small moon. But it's too big to be a space station.
Yes!
No, but there's a network of cryovolcanoes on the South Pole that are constantly pumping out tiny chunks of ice water. Sounds like the days for this place may be numbered. Now, this has got to be one of those cases where you were just freaking the fuck out. You've heard of embryonic twins, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, those are just the unborn twins that some people have that are often lodged in the body. Sometimes they can be seen externally. Sometimes it can't be. Oh, shit.
Nightmare
There's a
fuel coming
woman...
up?
Oh, God, you have no idea. A woman was having surgery to remove a brain tumor. Guess what they found in her fucking brain?
A
Really?
fetus?
An embryonic twin.
Still alive, I assume.
I would assume not, considering it's lodged in her brain. But yeah, they found an embryonic twin. She's only 26 years old. And she was getting a tumor exercise. How would it feel to be the surgeon? You're poking around someone's brain? Okay, careful. Ah, fuck, it's staring at me!
Yeah. That'd be pretty freaky.
Oh my god. This happened when an Indiana's University PhD student named Yamini Karnam had been struggling with reading and listening comprehension, and she sought out the help of a Dr. Harer Shahanian, who's known for developing minimally invasive techniques for removing tumors. The tumor was actually a teratoma, an embryonic twin, a rarity in modern medicine, complete with bone, hair, and teeth.
Wow. That's rare because teeth and hair are pretty late in the development stage.
Yeah, the doctors said that this is only the second thing like this he's ever seen. He's taken out like 7,000 to 8,000 brain tumors. The woman, the student, took it oddly in stride because she lightheartedly called the tumor her evil twin sister who's been torturing me for the past 26 years.
Almost like Dr. Venture.
Yeah,
I was just about to say this is almost exactly like Dr. Venture.
Even if everything went well, I would have dreams for decades about that.
Dude, I would think that would be cool. As long as I lived, you know. That's the thing.
Well, they didn't try to kill me, but with a robot made out of an oven, you mean?
Well, we know V's a nerd.
Yeah. Last bit of nerd interest news I have is something that's kind of in the same vein as the last story, although frightening for a completely different reason. You know that robots are on the rise in use in operating tables?
Skynet's coming back?
No, it's not quite that sinister, but it is bad. You know, the robots can enable people to do surgery by remote. You no longer have to hop a plane to do a necessary surgery. If the robots are operated and sitting there, then you can work on them.
Yeah.
Well, researchers at the University of Washington have just proved you can hack surgical robots.
I'm not surprised. It is scary.
No, it's not even like it's that complicated. It's a frighteningly simple procedure. Minimal hacks can get you into the visual feed so you can at least mirror it and watch what somebody's doing. A moderate hack could completely take over or disable the surgical robot.
That's scary.
Oh boy.
It turns out that they've spent so long, the developers, on making these fine instruments that security was really a low-born thought in this. That needs to change.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
You know, according to an MIT tech review, quote, the team tries out 3 types of attacks. The first changes the command sent by the operator to the robot by deleting, delaying, or reordering them. This causes the robot's movement to become jerky and difficult to control. The second type of attack modifies the intention of signals from the operator to the robot by changing, say, the distance an arm should move, or the degree it should rotate, and so on. Most of these attacks had a noticeable impact on the Raven immediately upon launch. The final category of attack is a hijacking that completely takes over the robot. This turns out to be relatively easy since the interoperable telesurgery protocol is publicly available. Unquote.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
That's a goddamn problem.
Shouldn't be too difficult to connect a external firewall to prevent some shit like that from happening.
I would imagine not, but the question is, how many of these things are already out there?
Someone's making money.
Yeah. Last, we have our WTF corner, which is where we talk about the stories that just make us question how humanity has gotten where it's gotten. First one is a bit of an interesting one. As you guys know, I am a Dudist priest. By an accident, I am a priest in the Church of Dudism. Turns out there's another wacky religion out there that might be pretty easy to get into. Founded in Las Vegas by an atheist man for some reason, and I am not kidding about this, there's the Church of Bacon.
Oh my god.
Okay.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't quite know. Now, the founder of this religion was an atheist who created it for some reason, just because it was a church that people could belong to as atheists. Some way of escaping religious persecution by basically joining a bullshit religion. However, this bullshit religion has gone so far that you can actually get certified in the Church of Bacon and perform weddings in certain states. I really don't think I need to join 2 churches.
No. You can already perform weddings, so why bother?
The The Church of Bacon has been widely criticized by several religious leaders after putting up several billboards around Las Vegas. The billboards read, "Bacon is our God, because bacon is real. United Church of Bacon. Proud member of the Las Vegas Coalition of Reason." You can find their website. You can find their website at praisebacon.com. You believe that this church has 9 commandments. The Bacon Commandments.
Okay.
Thou shalt not
enlighten
eat bacon
us.
bits.
It's actually less funny than you think it is. Commandment number 1, be skeptical. Commandment number 2, respect boundaries. Commandment number 3, normalize atheists. Commandments number 4, normalize religion. Commandment number 5, have fun. Commandment number 6, be good. Commandment number 7, be generous. Commandment number 8, praise bacon. Commandment number 9, pay taxes.
I think we all qualify.
Number 10,
I think we
be
all
excellent
qualify.
to each other.
The odd thing is, the website is kind of interesting because about marriages, it has a giant banner that says, "Get married before bacon."
Get married before making bacon?
Get married before Kevin Bacon. Have you ever thought about adding a little bit of fantasy to your sex life?
Sure.
I would have to have
Have
one
you ever
first.
thought about adding a little bit of sci-fi fantasy to your sex life?
No comment?
What do we got this time?
Star Wars BDSM toys? Take a look at these. These are kinky toys from a galaxy far, far away. It involves Star Wars versions of floggers, whips, paddles for some reason. Light BDSM toys, including blindfolds. You know,
the whip
there's something
kind of look.
I don't know about the braids in the whips. They look a little flimsy. I'm more curious about the pistol with the Empire symbol on it. That seems like something Emperor Palpatine might use in his private quarters.
I'm a little disappointed they don't have a lightsaber. I could totally see that.
The red lightsaber?
Yeah, the red
That
lightsaber have the whip things coming out of both ends. Yeah.
I don't know. The back end of that lightsaber handle looks like it's multi-use, frankly. So, I don't know. This is an interesting idea. You can find these on Geek Kink via Nerdcore. It's not quite my speed. It's almost funny, but it's not quite funny. I don't know.
Yeah. Disturbing comes to mind, so.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I don't know if I want to go back over that story. The 10 incredibly stupid ways superheroes and villains have died.
Yeah.
I was just happy I guessed kids.
Yeah, yay or nay?
No, it's up to you.
I don't care.
Don't care.
I'll skip it for now. I can hold on to that. I do have a list of retail video game horror stories, according to Kotaku. They interviewed several people who came up with weird stories while they were working in video games. I got a few of them here, and we'll post a link because there's more than a few. There was one person who was working in a video game store when their manager got a call, and boy, this was weird. Quote, "I work at a small used video game, board game, and comic book store. I was still getting a hang of how we handle some customer service situations when one day the phone rang and my manager answered, 'Hello? How can we help you today?' Sounds like you have to sync your Wiimote remotes. You have to... No, sir, sync. No, do not put your remotes in the water. There are buttons on the back. Do not put them in the sink."
Wow.
This continued for much longer than it should have. I was amazed my manager kept from laughing because we lost it when he hung up, unquote.
Someone is not caught with technology.
Oh my god.
It's like water filling your computer by pouring water into it.
Well, there was another person who had an interesting story about bargaining. Quote, "An older country-looking guy, Levi's, Cowboys boots, age 50 over, brings a $14.99 used copy of Mario Golf for GameCube up to the counter. 'I'll give you $12 for it,' he said. I kindly explained that haggling is not appropriate in retail. Now look here, you're a salesman. Salesmen can drop the price to make the sale. I kindly explained that is not how Game Crazy conducts business. The man rolls his eyes and says, "You're cold-hearted. You're cold-hearted and I hate you," unquote.
Okay, you cut out there. He's cold-hearted and what?
And I hate you.
Oh.
Ah. Okay, mature.
Yeah, really, not everybody bargains in everything. This one is the first one in this particular link of stories, and they call him Invisible Nunchuk-Guy. You can almost tell there's a story when the title of it is Invisible Nunchuk-Guy. Says, quote, "I work at a gaming store in the UK. For the most part, it's pretty quiet. Turning down cocky kids when they try to buy age-restricted stuff is satisfying, especially if they spent the last 2 hours on the demo units playing FIFA. But other than that, our store is quite mundane. The only things I'll tell my partner when I come home from a shift is when we've had a particularly odorous, that is, be-odorous, customer. We do, however, have a couple of regular difficult clients. We're all pretty well versed in how to handle each individual, and the team are great at placating people who seem to come in solely to harass us. One guy, however, didn't like it when we took too long testing the gear he was trying to trade in. He got shifty about a phone he was trying to get cash for, suddenly demanding the member of staff who was upstairs testing the device to return it to him. This behavior usually means their means of acquiring said device may not be entirely on the level. That or there's a shady browser history that they've just remembered, so we called upstairs to get the phone sent down. This wasn't satisfactory, however, and the man began performing incredibly mixed martial arts on the staff on the shop floor. He wasn't particularly good, and very few of his attacks actually connected, but his invisible nunchuck routine will stick with me till the day I die. We asked him not to return to the shop after giving his phone back. He apologized for his behavior and left calmly. He came back the next day and threatened to murder our entire staff. That's when we got the police involved. As far as I'm aware, they didn't take the threats overly seriously, though he has been told to stay away from the shopping center and hasn't been seen since. Invisible Nunchuk-Guy is kind of a legend now, his story told with irreverent aplomb to seasonal staff and new hires, unquote.
It's kind of like at our workplace, the guy that managed to cut one of his fingers off, and then when he was taken out onto the floor to show them how he managed to do it, he cut off another finger.
Wow!
Brilliant.
I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, he still works there for a number of years. He doesn't work there anymore, though. He retired.
Well, there's a number of stories here. I will read one more, and the title of it is "So Does She Like Steak?" Quote, "Years ago, I used to be the assistant manager of a GameStop. As a girl, I dealt with my fair share of shoppers who were either asked to speak to the guys because they didn't think I knew what I was talking about, or would try to hit on me. During one example of the latter, a customer just didn't get the hint. It started off as a simple conversation, nothing too alarming at first, just basic back and forth chatter about games. But it was a pretty hectic day, and I was doing my best not to blow the guy off while getting work done. Eventually, it got to the point where I could tell he wasn't getting my subtle hints, and I decided to take my lunch break and hide out in the back until he left. Apparently, after I left the sales floor, the customer started to grill the other employees about me. He asked if I was single, to which he was told I wasn't, which was the truth. Now, you would think most guys would call it quits there. Instead, he asked if they knew if I liked steak, because he wanted to take me out to dinner at Outback, but just as friends, since he now knew about the boyfriend. The employees politely let the guy down for me, and I came out of hiding to find them all laughing hysterically about steak, unquote."
Okay.
That poor woman.
I feel for her.
There's an entertainment story in the WTF news. There have been several Native Americans that have walked off the set of the latest Adam Sandler movie. Adam Sandler is working on a new Netflix film that's called The Ridiculous Six. It's obviously a bad Western, take on the Magnificent Seven.
Yeah.
Several Native Americans walked off the set due to offensive jokes that are present in the script. Now, according to the story on PaceMagazine.com, the film tells the story of Tommy, who's also called Three Knives, a white man who was given up by his family and raised by Native Americans. He's married to a Native American woman called Smoking Fox. You can already see how juvenile this is going to get.
Yeah.
Adam Sandler, what do you expect?
Oh, it gets even worse.
Yeah.
The movie follows them as Tommy battles a group of men called the Left Eye Gang. Tommy is presumably played by Sandler, as the character is not currently listed on the film's IMDb page. Now, according to Indian Country Today, they described a scene involving a character named Beaver Breath. That was the breaking point for the Native Americans on the set. Quote, "We were supposed to be Apache, but it was really stereotypical and we did not look Apache at all. We looked more like Comanche. One thing that really offended a lot of people was that there was a female character called Beaver's Breath. One character says, 'Hey, Beaver's Breath,' and the native woman says, 'How did you know my name?' Unquote."
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds fucking horrible.
Yeah.
There was a 74-year-old Choctaw man named David Hill who left the set because of crude jokes and disrespect shown by the crew. Quote, "They were being disrespectful. They were bringing up the same old arguments that Dan Snyder uses in defending the Redskins. But let me tell you, our dignity is not for sale. It's a real shame because a lot of people probably stay because they needed a job," unquote.
Damn.
There was another controversial scene about a native woman squatting and peeing while smoking a peace pipe. The extra said the character's name was No Bra. Though the character that does this in the original script is even more offensive with the name Sits on Face.
That's
Can
terrible.
we just not hear any more of this?
Yeah, this isn't even subtle. There's nothing in the writing that's intelligent. Let's move on to a story of stupid burglars. They tend to be entertaining.
Okay.
Except when they win lawsuits.
Yeah.
Oh, this is not that. There's a man in Petaluma, California. He's now behind bars because he fell asleep in the house he was trying to burgle.
Okay.
Just brings to mind the three bears.
Oh no. This is actually better than you think it is. According to the New York Daily News, quote, "A hungry California burglar broke into a Sonoma County home on a thieving mission, but got distracted when he found tater tots in the freezer," police said. "He made a snack, fell asleep, and got busted when the homeowner found him napping on the couch," unquote.
Got a free meal out of it.
Now the story...
Sorry, go on.
No, tell me what you're going to say.
I was just gonna say, it reminds me of a joke because my cat is the cuddliest cat. I just think if someone broke into my house, they'd just be still petting my cat when I got home.
Here's the funny part, is that IO9 expands on this story a bit. They say that this happened in broad daylight. The homeowner was upstairs the entire time. Around 2 p.m., she came downstairs and discovered a strange man snoozing on her couch.
I bet that gave her a fright.
Yeah, she freaked out, dialed 911, and made a break for safety. Her hasty exit actually awoke the sleeping bandit who took off at the back door and through a neighbor's fence. He was captured after being tased, which means he now has fried potatoes in his stomach. He was identified as James Adams. He's a man with a lengthy rap sheet in California and Oregon. I bet he's going to get a lot of tater tots in jail. Actually,
the conversation. What you in for? Eating tater tots?
That's probably going to be a good... Hey, come here, tater tot. I got something for you.
Oh, God.
Now, I know you guys aren't beachcombers by habit. I've been to the beach several times, and I've seen some weird stuff.
I used to live by the beach.
Okay, the next time you see a man surfing in a suit, it might not be as weird as you think. Quicksilver has actually designed a wetsuit that looks like an actual suit.
Huh, really?
Yeah, like a three-piece suit. All I have is a video. It's about 2 minutes long.
Shoot.
Give, please.
Hang on. Okay, I sent the link. Now, they're apparently called True Wetsuits by Quicksilver. And I see a Japanese man in a rather fine car. Actually, it's a Japanese car. He's driving on the right. I had not noticed that. Oh, it's a Nissan. No wonder. Yeah. He's checking his phone. Probably got the text that says he's got time to do whatever he's going to do. And he gets out in his suit, just grabs his surfboard, and he's on his way. So this is what the wetsuit looks like.
Going to be this will be popular in Southern California, probably.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A wetsuit? Dude, out here, that would be a no-brainer. I like the woman staring at him as if he's deranged.
You know, honestly, that's kind of hot.
V likes her guys wet.
Well?
Oh, they're translating it. He's telling the guy he's stuck in traffic.
Yep. I mean, judging early on in the commercial, I really couldn't tell that the suit he was wearing was a Quicksilver suit. I thought he was going to change into a wetsuit.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
I did
I wonder how hard it is to dry out.
According to this, not at all.
Well, according to TV, a lot of things are easier than they really are. You know, those old Transformer commercials make it look like click, 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 robot! No.
I like it.
Yeah.
Now appearing in a James Bond film near you. Like, you stand off the business card? That's awful. It's an ingenious invention, but it does make you curious. We have a man who injured himself playing video games.
Oh,
is this
how
the
did
thumb?
he do it this time?
Well, it wasn't Rock Band. Rock Band you can almost understand, either, you know, swinging around your head and possibly creating a whiplash, or maybe just beating an unruly video game fan over the head. But no, this man injured himself playing Candy Crush.
Oh, yeah, this one. Oh, my God.
I don't quite know what's worse, that he injured himself playing Candy Crush, or he must be a military member, because the report came from the Naval Medical Center from San Diego.
Oh.
According to this, he didn't even know he was injured for a while because of the endorphins that are released from achieving good plays in video games. He may not have noticed he was hurt for a while. It's so bad he has to have surgery on the tendons of his thumb to reattach them.
Oh!
According to the story on Live Science, the man was playing Candy Crush all day for 6 to 8 weeks.
That's insane.
It's a possibility you could get a medical discharge if he's in the armed forces.
It almost makes you wonder, because 6 to 8 weeks of doing that kind of damage to your thumb, you almost wonder if while holding the phone, he's not actually like playing it with his thumb. He's picking up his thumb with his other hand like it's a stylus and just poking at shit.
I can't even picture that.
That's, if it wasn't just the thumb, I'd say this guy would be a candidate for Darwin Awards, frankly. I only have one more WTF story, and it's a big WTF. There's an 18-year-old man from Florida. You already know this story's starting bad, but that's how you lead in with it.
Anything with Florida.
Okay, he's 18 years old. His name is Austin Hatfield of Wimoma.
Hatfield?
Right?
He's a Hatfield. He was hospitalized last Saturday after being bitten by a cottonmouth snake.
Oh, I saw this. Oh my
yes.
God.
Yes. Idiot.
Do you know why he was bitten by the cottonmouth?
He was trying to kiss it.
He was trying to get fresh with it.
Yeah, he was trying to kiss the snake.
Kiss the snake.
On the face.
Yes. According to friends of Hatfield, he captured the snake from his girlfriend's yard several days before and was keeping it in a pillowcase. He kept the snake in a pillowcase for several days.
Yeah, it was pretty pissed.
Yeah. He occasionally took out the snake to kiss it on the mouth, but on Saturday, the snake decided, "No tongue, sir."
You know? No, go ahead.
What?
Finish it. I guess some follow-up.
Okay, according to Jason Belcher, who witnessed the attack, quote, he took it out, put it on his chest, and it was acting funny, and it jumped up and got him. He ripped it off his face, threw it on the ground, and he started swelling up immediately. It was pretty frightening, unquote.
That sounds like an understatement.
I'm going to guess beer and medical marijuana was involved here at some point.
There's no way being high would make you that stupid. I'm saying lots of beer.
Should we call that St. McCoy?
Have you seen what this douchebag looks like?
Before or after?
I'm thinking maybe glue sniffing.
He looks like the kind of guy that would get bit by a snake, frankly. Take a look at this, because it's a before and an after.
Oh.
Wow, his face swelled up bad.
Wow.
Yeah, on the left side of the screen, we have Florida Douche. On the right side, we have White Albert.
Yeah.
He's lucky, frankly. If a cottonmouth bites you, that's generally about it.
Well, especially on the face, like that close to your brain.
Yeah.
Let's just be glad he was just kissing it and he wasn't sexually attracted to it. This would be a whole different story.
Oh my god.
Different kind of swelling, that's for sure.
Now,
if he got bit by a snake down there, he probably wouldn't even go to the hospital. He'd be stupid enough to say, well, that helps.
Oh.
Well, right when you mentioned that he was kissing the snake, it reminded me, I don't have any memory of this, but there is actually a news article back when I was still living in Marina, of me kissing a snake. I was 3 years old. There is a newspaper article, or there was a clipping in my parents' house.
You were a Southern preacher?
Huh?
You were a Southern preacher?
What?
No. Thankfully, the snake wasn't poisonous. It was a
garter snake.
It was a giant constrictor snake. I don't know what.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, I was apparently on a field trip to some wildlife preserve or some shit like that. I don't remember.
Huh. V, you've never heard of the preachers that prove their faith to God by handling snakes?
No, I know now. I remember. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank God. I didn't want to have to school you. No, we're good there. We're actually into our conversation of the week. Deviate, Gods and Monsters. A couple weeks ago, we discussed the original series of Deviate that came out from Wildstorm prior to their involvement with DC Comics in any way, shape, or form. And we agreed that it was an interesting series that could have done with a modern take on it. Well, it turns out in 2010, Wildstorm did do a modern take on it. Post their soft reboot, they did a miniseries, just an 8-issue miniseries about Deviate. The synopsis is the entirety of the team, minus their erstwhile and bizarre founder, Ivana Bayul, is dropped off on an alien planet with no instructions, no mission, no regard as to why they're even there. They're just dropped off on an alien planet that seems to have several tribes involved in it. I gotta say, my first impressions of it were not that strong as I read it, but as the series goes along, it builds intensity like a fucking railroad train.
Yeah, it really builds.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. It kind of starts off, you're about as lost as everybody else. Then, as it goes along, you're just like, okay, you're watching the train wreck in progress.
Yep, it was entertaining train wreck.
I will say that it was interesting because the most constant narrative device throughout it was the character who before could never have performed a narrative device function.
Yeah, she was honestly the most broken of the group.
Yeah, Copycat. For those who haven't read the series or don't know much about the characters, Copycat in the original series was suffering from a forced schizophrenia and multiple personality disorder from one of her other teammates.
Well, it wasn't even revealed that was happening in the... Yeah.
In the segment we read.
Yeah. But it turns out in this series, she's the one who's retelling all the events to their mysterious, I don't want to say benefactors, but keepers throughout the 8 issues. What are your guys' take on this series? Because I was honestly surprised reading it from beginning to end.
I was fairly entertained, actually.
Yeah, I was very entertained too, but I kind of feel like the characters that we followed, went through a forging process, in a way.
Did you say fortune or forging?
Forging,
Okay.
Weapon.
Yeah, I agree. Some of them kind of broke.
Oh, I think all of them broke. They just broke in different ways. Some of them found ways through, others found no way through. The actions of a couple of them in particular, especially Bliss, was just directionless. She had no idea what to do with herself.
Bliss was really interesting, I thought.
I didn't say she wasn't interesting. She just didn't have a direction as to what to do after she got command of her particular tribe.
She's like, war, I guess.
I think Threshold actually got more dangerous after this experience.
Yeah, I thought Threshold and Bliss were the most interesting, and what's her face? The probability
Sublime.
one. No, not Sublime.
Oh, no,
not Sublime.
Freestyle. Freestyle.
No.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, Freestyle.
Yeah.
Probability one.
Yep.
I'll be honest.
Actually, what?
I kind of felt sorry for Evo, and I didn't like him in the first time we reread this thing.
Yeah, I didn't either. I didn't like any of the males except Threshold. I didn't like Threshold as a person, but just
Well, I kind of felt for Frostbite. He's actually.
Wait, hang on a second. Steve hasn't weighed in. Steve, which of these characters do you gravitate the most towards?
Probably Frostbite.
It's interesting because everybody has different answers. The one that I liked and didn't expect to was Powerhouse.
Well, it was a little weird for me because I thought Powerhouse had died, so I don't know when he ended up getting brought back or whatever. So I was a little confused about that. But then I respected his stance, as far as like respecting, their culture and their forms of technology and whatnot. But at the same time, I knew it was not going to end well.
Yeah.
Okay, well, remember, this is post-Wildstorm soft reboot, so the prior continuity really didn't matter that much.
Okay.
I thought it was interesting how Powerhouse was self-medicating just to try and keep sane during this whole thing.
Yeah.
Because they tweaked his power slightly in this reboot in that not only is he turning emotion into raw muscle mass, but he also has to live through the feelings of those emotions as he uses them, and now he's stuck on this planet full of war-torn tribes.
I thought that was a really excellent tweak. I wasn't sure if that was a new thing or not.
Well, I think it became more personal because he had to deal with the emotion of the guy he killed, and that seems.
But that's the kind of PTSD you almost expect at this point. That combined with just the feeling of war across this planet and everyone else's fears and anxieties and bloodlust and rage, it's got to be maddening.
Yeah.
That'd be worse than spending time in like fucking New York City or something. Take him to Detroit. I thought that was an incredible twist, and I felt really sorry for him. That planet had to be the worst place for him to end up.
Yeah, but at the same time, going back to Earth isn't going to be any better.
It's got to be somewhat better. I mean, as an American kid, it's going to be a little more controlled for him as far as what people do in their day-to-day.
He's got to be the person that's kind of going to go out and live in the countryside, just to be away from everyone, just to keep sane.
Ideally, but then you have to deal with the pair of, was it psychotic siblings who are just going to keep dragging you back into shit.
Mm-hmm.
It was also, I thought, really interesting how they changed the dynamic of the characters compared to the prior continuity, the pre-soft reboot things, because in the original series we saw that Frostbite, Copycat, and Sublime were kind of gravitating towards each other as kind of an ethical center.
Mm-hmm.
They were the three arguably most sane characters who were just dealing with trying to stay alive. In this one, Copycat, with her brain intact, managed to find Frostbite, who was probably the most morally centered person, who was hanging out with Freestyle, while Sublime was going on a...
princess.
Kind of a... Not even princess, just a complete power trip.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
they almost made her
sense.
into a very stereotypical rich brat at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was channeling Paris Hilton pretty well there.
That was the thing I really enjoyed about the series, was that it was everything I imagined and remembered in Deviate, but things were turned just enough where it was hard to predict what's going to go on. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. I think the two that changed the absolute least were Threshold and Bliss.
Yeah.
He more or less got refined. And I know Threshold did. He got more refined with what his problem was.
I still think those are excellent characters because they're just so horribly broken in interesting ways.
Hmm.
Yeah, I agree with Jesse's assessment, actually. Threshold found a measure of peace on this planet that character had never experienced before.
Right. Well, I was talking actually more from just like the original to now this soft reboot. Those two characters changed the least.
Mm-hmm. No, I was just talking about Jesse's point about how Threshold became more dangerous because he wasn't just wild rage with a telekinetic gun in his
He
forehead.
now had a passion.
A better focus,
Yeah.
too. He found a way to survive away from Ivana and the drugs and all the things that usually pushed him in his fire life.
He's really dangerous. Like, him and Bliss would make horrifyingly effective warlords.
The thing is, I don't think Bliss got refined. I think she's got more wild. More
Well, no,
power
but she
hungry.
did do the thing where she helped someone.
She midwifed.
She midwifed. She actually helped someone for the first time ever.
And had a relationship without using her powers for the first time ever.
Mm-hmm. Well, or at least sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Consensual sex.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many modifiers you guys are adding to this story.
Yes. These characters are that broken. We gotta be that specific. We can't just say crazy, because that's too broad of a term.
Yeah.
You know, the character of Evo in this story, Gods and Monsters, though, took a humongous step forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He found his
I
Tahoe
think
in
his
this story.
character, other than Jem, changed the most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He actually found his voice. He wasn't just that one-off stereotypical wildling character that you find in a lot of comic book team books.
I think he kind of found a relative peace on this planet because of he wasn't bombarded with all these god-awful smells and senses, assaulting his senses.
That's true.
Well, it wasn't just...
I don't
it
think
wasn't
he
just-
found peace at all, honestly. He was very unhappy with his lot on that planet.
At least until he escaped, but then there came, like, the end, so...
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't just the end, though. He actually found people that appreciated him for being him. Remember, towards the end, there was that group from Sublime's tribe that split away and followed him. He had a pack of wolves with him.
Oh, yeah.
You know, somebody actually liked him just for being him instead of just whose throat he could cut for them and shit like that. That's usually his lot in life. I will say there's one thing that stayed consistent between the original continuity and the soft reboot. Man, Freestyle has no fucking luck whatsoever.
Yeah, poor girl.
The only one among the 7 characters, was it 7? No, 8 characters dropped off on this planet. She's the only one that tried to build something, and it just turned out horribly for her in everything she did.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got 8 people, and more than half them, at least half them, feel like killing and taking over things.
But that's what she was for. That was what she was trained for too. Except in this continuity, they changed it a little bit in that her powers didn't age her prematurely. It just caused a massive aneurysm if she overdid it. And unlike the others, she didn't try to build a better war machine. She tried to build aqueducts.
She tried to build a better world.
Mm-hmm. She tried to be the god that they needed rather than just...
With the god that they wanted.
Yeah.
The interesting tweak to her ability, though, was how she seemed to exist in her mind in several points in time at once. She wasn't just thinking about what was in front of her, she was thinking about things that were coming in the next few minutes, simultaneously.
Oh, it reminds me that there was a movie that had this with a character with his powers on a similar premise, but he can only do 2-minute jumps. I forget which one.
Well, I was going to say sections of her dialogue did these very odd Doctor Who things where she would talk to somebody as they're sitting about whatever issue they wanted to talk about, and then she'd say something to the effect of, and in a few minutes, you're going to really hate what I'm going to say. What? Hang on, we're going to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was fucking rough on her. I wish I could say more about the story, but the story in itself is really cut and dry. And the story wasn't really the meat of this mini. It was how they got from point A to point B, because in the first issue, you already found out that they were on this planet, they got off this planet, and someone is asking about everything that happened in between.
Mm-hmm.
The only hint you might have as to what's going on is that several times you see the ship leaving the planet that they were on destroyed, and anybody who's read comics for a while, especially Wildstorm comics, knows what that ship is.
Wait, so what is the ship?
The ship is called the Carrier, and it's the home base of the Authority.
Okay.
Things we saw Midnighter in that last issue.
So
Midnighter and Battalion.
Are they like
Wasn't familiar with that character.
Wildstar as
He's one of the leaders of the
or
Stormwatch.
Wildstorm as
But,
Shield?
now, let me,
Are they a Shield equivalent?
let me expand on this. Battalion was there as a member of Stormwatch. He didn't have anything to do with the Authority. At the time this was written, Wildstorm's soft reboot was going through what was called World's End. The Earth was destroyed, and it was kind of this Mad Max with superpowers kind of event. Okay? He was looking for superhumans who could help him rebuild, and he thought members of Deviate could do that. So the idea of the story, the full premise of this, is that between the Authority's ship and his say-so as the director of Stormwatch, they dropped him off on this planet as a form of quick evaluation. They were trying to find out in a short amount of time which members of Deviate could be useful and which ones should just be ditched. It was an interesting story. Now, to expand on V's question, the Authority were not anything like S.H.I.E.L.D. They were a group of, if memory serves, 6 superhumans who were trying to make the universe and multiverse a better place by any means necessary.
So they're forming like the Justice League?
No, the Justice League would actually allow things to develop on their own. The Authority had been known to take over countries and worlds to force them on a better path.
Oh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There's even an infamous story in the Authority where they fought God.
Like
they
the
didn't
actual
appreciate
Christian deity?
The actual Christian deity. They didn't appreciate the plan that God came forth with because it involved several evils that should have been avoided. So they found a plane that God existed on and challenged it.
Wow.
Oh, that...
It didn't cause as much controversy as you think, because at this point Wildstorm was on its own, no image, it was just its own imprint. It kind of escaped relatively unnoticed, except for people who were following the Authority as fans.
Which wasn't many.
Not a lot, no. It was an interesting... The Authority were a very interesting team overall, but it had problems gathering people once it split off from Stormwatch. I don't know if I helped you understand anything, V, frankly.
Oh, it makes sense.
Okay, but the carrier wasn't just an intergalactic carrier, it was an interdimensional carrier.
That's cool. I like
it traveled
that idea.
between worlds. It was known to stay in a place between dimensions called the Bleed. Just this weird area between dimensions that was red aura. Think of it as the membrane between cells.
Gotcha.
And it sent people from place to place interdimensionally via teleportation doors, which was the door you saw that all of Deviate run into at the end of issue 8. In other words, oops, we didn't know this meteor was coming here. Escape. And that was the interesting part about the end of Gods and Monsters, because you expect that gigantic fight at the end that's going to resolve everything. Characters live, characters die, they're going to learn something. At the end of it, they didn't get a chance to learn Dick because of a cosmic accident.
Oops. But that in itself was scripted because that gave immediacy. Thank you. To what Jackson was trying to evaluate them on. Surviving an extinction event.
Well, he put them on a world that the Authority knew was on a death sentence because it gave them the gamut of things to experience, and therefore gave Battalion a better chance to evaluate all of them from all kinds of different stimulus.
Yeah, I really did find it fucked up what happened to Freestyle.
It was, and she was using her powers as many different ways as possible to find out if they could stop it, and unfortunately 8 superpowered people, none of which have a giant S on their chest, are going to be able to stop a meteor.
Of all of them, Threshold might.
No.
He would have had the best shot, but a meteor that size coming at that speed, I couldn't even calculate the amount of destructive force it was coming with. And Threshold is powerful, but he is no Superman.
He probably could have stopped, but probably would have stroked in the process.
Very likely.
Yeah, he could have taken chunks off of it.
But God, who wrote this series? I didn't actually keep track of who was on it.
I don't know, but it seemed the art style changed in the very last issue.
The art style stayed fairly consistent with a couple of differences.
I did like the art a little bit better than the previous.
Okay, the writer is Brian Wood. I gotta say, Brian Wood did an incredible job because you have 8 characters, some of which have relatively similar powers, but it really occurred to me around issue 6 how distinct the voice is for all 8 of these characters. You know what I mean? All of them had a completely different feel from one to the next.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of any similarities, be them genetic, power-wise, anything. They just ran the gamut of all kinds of different personalities. Maybe that had to do with the fact that they're all technically supervillains.
Yeah.
You made sure each character had their own language.
Mm-hmm. And I especially appreciated that inside the cover to the first issue is that pinup that was done by Jim Lee of the new version of these characters. The redesign of Bliss was interesting. The fact that she wasn't wearing dominatrix gear. She looked more like somebody who'd been interrupted on a date.
Yeah.
You know, the redesign on Frostbite isn't bad. They didn't change much. They kept him shirtless. They just... Basically, the difference was they cut the cornrows off his head. The cornrows were very interesting.
Soldier feel.
Yeah, the cornrows were a very 90s thing, but modernly, yeah, they don't go well.
Yeah.
You know, Copycat changed from red leather to red tracksuit.
The tracksuit is an interesting choice.
I didn't say it was a bad choice. You know, they didn't leave much to go on from redesigning that character. You know, Powerhouse, it's hard to mark his changes because didn't see a whole lot of them in the series overall.
I don't think there was much other than the addition of the trench coat.
Threshold looks just about the same.
The only difference was they ditched the cape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sublime's character design is very much the same, except they changed the nature of her top, more or less.
Yeah.
She went from that sports top to that bizarre strap thing. It was... I would argue about it more, except you got a character that goes to diamond density. Armor is not her deal.
Yeah, she doesn't need armor.
You know, but Freestyle, compared to what she used to look like, totally fucking different.
I have no context for what she used to look like. I was like questioning, who is that?
Let me see if I can look something up so you have a better idea as to how far this has come. Oh wow, I put in image Freestyle and I get a whole bunch of logos that look fucking terrible.
Maybe Deviate Freestyle.
Oh, that's what I put in next. The problem is that there's going to be so many Gods and Monsters references, it's going to take me a minute to dig. Yeah, this, you're not going to recognize the two characters in a side-by-side. I don't have a side-by-side. This is the original look of Freestyle from Deviate.
Oh, damn it. Yep, no way.
Short blonde hair, something that looks close to an outfit you'd expect to find on a showgirl stage.
Complete with the stars.
For some reason, the first thing that comes to mind is Longshot. I don't know why.
I couldn't tell you why either. You lost me on that one. But the one they designed for Gods and Monsters is a complete departure from that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's more normalized in almost every way, including the outfit. She wore pants, for fuck's sake. Did you guys notice in the Jim Lee pinup the human Evo down front?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I think.
He looks so aggressively normal down there with his purple hair. And it looks like Freestyle's playing with it. Hey, he just looks content, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He has a weird smile on his face.
I just knew something was odd about this series when the title of the first issue is The Day I Tried to Live. The odd thing is, the series compared to what Deviate used to be in the original continuity, it really isn't as violent as the first series. It's not filled with a lot of typical superhero tropes. It's not thick on plot, but the story is much better than people gave it credit for.
I think it's really good, actually. I wish there were... I like comics like this, where they explore the brokenness of characters.
Yeah, it almost reminded me a little bit of one of our pop culture
profiling.
You know, what would happen if you threw a bunch of superpowered people into prehistoric society and, you know, had the ability to be gods, essentially?
That comparison wasn't lost on me either, and I must say that the first issue was especially intriguing watching how the group broke down. You know, how different members were just disappearing at different points.
And you're going, okay, what the hell's taking them out? And then you find out, no, they just all reached the conclusion that they didn't need to be together, and let's go out and take control of the indigenous population.
Yeah. A lot of them found singly at different times. They just didn't care. At least not as much as you'd think they would.
Yeah. It kind of really showed the fact that their group wasn't much of a group.
Yeah,
It was a bunch of individuals thrown together.
The other thing that amazed me about this series is how they really pulled back the layers of each individual character through the course of it. Powerhouse wasn't just the muscle of the team. He actually had problems dealing with his own abilities that he didn't talk about. Sublime was always looking for acceptance and just could never find it from anybody, so she kept seeking it. Even Threshold showed remorse over how many people he had to kill just to keep him alive when they first arrived on the planet. He was exploding people's heads at a distance and wouldn't talk about it, wouldn't brag about it. He just wanted to fall asleep after that.
Well, for me, that wasn't about that. It was he went out and let off some steam and then just came back and it was nothing. That's how
in
I
the
saw
prior
that.
continuity, stuff like that, this is what he would rail about. He would explain to people why he's so powerful and why you shouldn't mess with him. Instead, he just quietly came back and fell asleep. He just refused to answer any questions.
Well, no, that's because the rest of the team first stopped really taking his bullshit, and it's like he couldn't outright kill them because he kind of needed them to survive. And so he had no control at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And the only sense of control he could do is blow the brains out of the local natives. It meant nothing.
Lately, I haven't collected as many single issues just because of money issues. I will collect trade paperbacks on things that interest me. I tell you what, man, at Comic-Con, I know a few booths that sell TPBs. I'm going to look for this. I was really surprised how much I enjoyed it, both as a character study and as a story involving some of my favorite characters from my teenage years. I mean, what do you guys think about this? Because I was thrown by how much I loved it.
This is probably my favorite thing we've read so far, actually.
Really?
I think so.
That's a surprising answer.
I wish it had been a little longer.
Yeah, there's that.
Rather than a miniseries, I would have actually been okay with this as a setting for a while.
I'll be honest, it didn't feel rushed like some of the other things we've done.
You think that had to do with the fact that it was 8 issues instead of the standard 5 or 6?
Yep.
I think it helped, yeah.
Maybe we should up our...
Not my favorite, but I did enjoy it.
Okay. I don't think that has to do with our usual reading limits, V. It's a case where this miniseries was made as 8 issues. A lot of minis stop at 4 or 6 issues.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'll be honest, I think for me and maybe V, we walked in this with no particular expectations due to character brand.
Mm-hmm.
I think that helped a lot.
Yeah.
The big 3 in DC.
Yeah.
You're supposed to know all these things, and you're just like, what?
Well, that was the real strength about Wood's script here, was that he seemed to write it from the standpoint that he knew there was a lot of people that would never understand these characters. He wrote it for a generation of people that probably never even heard of it, and it was really easy to get into.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I would actually say, Steve mentioned it before, there are studies in universities about comic books and writing and, superheroes and their effects on modern society. I would be really astonished if this wasn't part of the curriculum. This is a well-thought-out, well-rounded study of what would happen to people in adverse situations, especially when they are the adverse situation.
Right. I think probably one of the reasons why it wouldn't be used is because it's less well-known.
But that
actually kind of helps to it because
would say, yeah.
Again, if the professor or whoever's making the curriculum doesn't know about it, then they're not going to include it. And that's why I think it would be less likely to be used.
We could make curriculum for it. By we, I mean me, but...
You know what, though? The last few pages on issue 8, when Copycat is finally meeting Jackson King, the battalion,
mm-hmm.
and when he's trying to explain to her what's going on, what they're doing, and she is just sitting there, not even talking to him. She's just listening and crying, thinking about how the planet was destroyed. They lost freestyle. It was amazing to see her just sit silently as he talks about everything they've been through, what he expects from them, what he might need from them. And as he's leaving, she pretty much takes him to task.
Yeah.
She says, all we've ever had is people dicking us around, even when we were free. There's someone like you pulling the strings. And when he asked her, what do you want, Jim? Miss Antonelli. What do you want, Miss Antonelli? I want a funeral for my friend. And after that, maybe we'll listen to you. We're no one's lab rats, no one's puppets. You'll have to earn our help. And that's how the series ends. That's the kind of drop microphone moment you pray for in television shows.
Yeah. Like, that kind of makes up for her, like, kind of not really doing anything throughout the entire, other than narrating, but
Yeah.
like, she didn't
Well,
actually
I
do
think
anything
that's
for
why
it.
they gave her the role that they gave her, is because, for one, you're not quite sure. I mean, if you knew her character beforehand, it's kind of like, okay, she's being very reticent, not really behaving the way that you would expect her to, but even then, they needed that person that was kind of outside of everything to be the narrator, because that way they're not as involved and, they seem less biased.
But there is a thought, though, that because of the way Copycat's powers work, arguably she's the only one that would really have a better understanding of all of them. She has to play them like psionic puppets, which means you have to do a little bit of brain invasion to get in there.
Right.
So that's probably why she was picked by King, at least, to be the person to speak for this group. I would take this one step further. If you decide to make a TV miniseries based on comics, this is fucking ripe.
Oh, yeah.
This will make an amazing TV drama if you filmed it, like, out in New Zealand or something.
We could... I'm trying
You
to
think we should write a letter?
I was going to say, and so suggested casting.
That might be a fun project for, like, a further week, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Trying to
like
decide how to
casting
cast
calls.
TVA Gods and Monsters.
I couldn't even begin to do this because I don't keep track of actors at all, except for ones that people already know.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to think about things or Google, but there's Google and IMDb, and just remembering that one guy I saw from the one thing that one time.
I think we're all there. But I think we dragged this on long enough. If you're a comic book fan, not even a Marvel DC fan, if you just like well-written comic books, this has got to be the top of your list, frankly.
I wouldn't go as far as top of your list, but it was good.
It's ranking high. It is ranking high.
Agreed.
It's 2010. It's lesser-known characters. It wouldn't be expensive for you to pick up at most comic book shows or shops. This would be an easy in and out.
Mm-hmm.
Without getting caught up in decades of continuity, at least. Next week, we already know what we're doing. We get to talk to Bill Ratner.
That's right.
The voice of Flint from G.I. Joe. It is time.
Oh, boy.
Oh, my God. I was thinking about what to ask him about. I actually would like to ask him a few questions about Chris Latta.
Ooh.
Chris Latta was the guy who played Starscream in Transformers and Cobra Commander and G.I. Joe.
Oh.
He died very early compared to the rest of them, and I know nothing about him. This would be a guy to ask.
How do we know how involved the whole cast were with each other, or was it more of a, this person filmed this role, this person filmed this role type thing?
I'll be honest, at the era, back in the 80s, I'm pretty sure all the voice actors knew each other at that point in time.
There was 5 of them at Long Beach Comic Expo, and they were joking amongst each other and talking about their social schedules and shit. They know each other fairly well. Matter of fact, when I retweeted that we're having Bill on the show, one of the voice actors that played Lady J on the show sent me a message and said, ask Bill about when he found out Flint and Lady J were an item. Woo, that's a story.
This should be fun.
Oh my God, I can't even imagine. So next week, it's Bill Ratner. I want to thank you and invite you to roll with us again next week when we have a celebrity on the show. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend. If you're at C2E2, fucking jealous. I am Jeremy.
Steve.
Jesse.
And V.
Don't jerk and drive. Have a great weekend.
It's going to get old eventually.
To you.